And we are live. Welcome to the Orphans of Avraham Thursday night roundtable Torah discussion. I am your host, James, at James the Idol Smasher at gmail.com. Yochanan is here. John Gishla at the John Gishla channel. Great Torah nuggets for Jew and Gentile alike. William is here, and I've been hearing about some of the plight he's gone through. Becoming Jew again, I guess. I don't know, the born again. But we're talking here. We are Chag Sameach for those who are keeping Passover, practicing Passover, our Jewish friends, and we're coming up on the end of that. So I'd like to have a little bit of a continuation of a Passover discussion, because I do think it directly affects the non-Jew, and I think there's a proper way, non-Jewish people should approach it. I think it's very important. But tonight I was hoping that we might get some controversial stuff in here, and we're early in the evening, I understand, but I'd like to talk a bit about Zionism, because there's me being a libertarian guy, I come across a lot of anti-Semitism. That's one place that you can go to find some Jew haters. And, not that I don't necessarily hate libertarians. I don't want to knock on libertarians, but libertarians are very freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is necessary for a society to learn and grow. The ability to express oneself in and of itself is actually a human accomplishment. But when you go to their groups, when you go to their bulletin boards, when you go to their social media, there's an awful lot of Jew hate going on. And most of it, I'd say about 85, 90% of it doesn't come from a genuine hatred of Jews, but a genuine hatred of the image created that's, not the real thing. They're not really hating Jews. They're given a scenario, they're given a fake history, particularly the past 100 years, and they run with it, and they don't know any better, but they still spread a lot of shit. They still believe it. So I thought maybe we could tackle some of that. A lot of stuff's going on, of course, in the world and in news and whatnot. We got Putin meeting Kim Jong-un over there. Who I think is probably viewed, I don't know for better or for worse, but I think Putin's probably viewed as a more stable leader than Trump, not for Trump's actions or who he is, but for the turbulent nature of the American people in regards to his presidency. Like I say, for better or for worse. We've talked about that in a couple of other hangouts. Lashon hara. So maybe, here's this kid trying to normalize and be a part of the world, and Putin would not be my first choice. Russia would not be my first choice. But, it could be worse. At least he's talking. At least he's open. At least he's showing his face, and he's not threatening anybody. And Japan doesn't hear North Korean missiles flying over their homeland anymore. So, some good stuff there. There's a lot of other stuff in the news I could talk about. Pedo Joe running, how far tolerance. That was one of the things I want to go is how far do we tolerate it? Because, in Torah, we just kind of get that a Pharaoh arose and the Israelites became oppressed. And we have Midrashim, and we have commentary explaining why that happened. But now I think 3,000 some odd years later, we're a little more hip to the notion. We're a little more aware of what's going on. So there's a line that we have to draw. And where do we draw that line in tolerance? This goes into the terrorist attacks on that apparently ISIS is taking credit for against a shed ton of churches around the world. So there's a lot to this. Zionism is usually the main reason why you get a lot of anti-Semitism in the States. Zionism and the bank.
Well, yeah, and actually, yeah, and those two things kind of go hand in hand with the sort of ethos of the Bank of Rothschild and the whole deflating of the UK currency at the time. I think it was the early 1800s that happened. And then the mythology that goes along with that and some of the conspiracy. And it relates to Zionism because, Rothschild, Jews speaking, the whole system set up against them in the Middle Ages to basically only allow them to lend money, and then they take it up as a trade and don't trust the goyim and that sort of thing. So it's a little bit everyone's fault, but also probably not being a shitbag human being was probably a good place to start as well. In general, just don't do it.
That makes some sense a little bit.
I correct you, James, in some of the language you used tonight. They're called Easter worshippers. Then you can't say this. You can't say Christian.
I'm so sorry, John. Oh my goodness. Oh.
Well, my buddy in a video, TJ. Everybody knows TJ here, I think, right? The Amazing Atheist. He did show that a number of churches were calling their people who attended Easter Mass as Easter worshippers and have been for a long time. But it's Hillary Clinton and her ilk. So fair play to both parties, I think, at that point.
I agree.
So.
Well, I mean, if you're going to worship a pagan god while claiming the God of Avraham, the God of Israel, God of Isaac and Jacob, and then you name your holiday after a pagan, I mean, you're just asking to be kind of called out for it.
Oh, yeah. The whole holiday thing, the reason nobody can figure out what fucking day it's on every year is because it's based on the phases of the moon. I mean, it's, and to be fair, Judaism has a little bit of that in and of itself too, but it's not because of that. It's just because that's how the calendar works in Judaism. So it's a lunar calendar, and it always has been, as far as I know. I mean, I've taken 2 weeks off of this stuff, mostly because I've been promoting charity stuff, and
good for you.
Yeah, well, we did a drinking contest for a charity for a war vet. He's not American, he's Australian. I actually lost subscribers because of that, so the guy I streamed with is going to owe me a favor. I did not win. I did 22 shots in under 3 hours, and I can say without a shadow of a doubt, I am never going to be an alcoholic in my life. I think I'm pretty much done drinking. I've got a bottle of mead. I might crack into that because that shit's fantastic, and as far as I know, it's also kosher. Just because there's no yeast involved in production, but
right.
So I might be able to keep that. That'd be neat. Well, I'm not intending to go full super Jew, but without causing any problems for myself, I've explained the context of that to J Dubs and the Idol Smasher here. So, I'm gonna have to follow all the fucking rules.
You'll get there eventually if you do. It seems like everyone's doing it fine. Like I said, they should treat you if when they find out who you are, they got to be easy on you. And I think they should do that to anybody, not just like you who discovered your Jewish root, but right. To people like Yohanan here who have sacrificed a lot. And I think it should be a much easier. I know that right now, if it wasn't for stigma, the goyish stigma, which is earned, and if it wasn't for my goyish life too, I'll just be honest there, it would have been it would have been a bit easier for me. But they kind of put people off on that when they tell you you're Noahide. There's the extreme, and I don't want to come off like one of these guys because I think I do. John and I have talked about this before, but they're really big on, well, you don't want to do it like a Jew. You don't want to be like a Jew. Don't go. And I get that because when I thought I was Jewish, I went off and I'm wearing yarmulkes in casinos on Shabbat. That's how dumbass I was 20 years ago because I had a yarmulke. I wore it everywhere. I didn't know what I was doing. So I get that there needs to be a differentiation. You don't want to play Jew and then do something stupid. You know,
Speaking of yarmulkes and casinos,
shit.
how is Atlantic City on Christmas Eve? I hear that's a fucking hoot.
I haven't been. This was in Vegas. I don't know. I've never been
Oh,
to.
okay. Because I heard Christmas Eve in Atlantic City is ridiculous. It's just wall to wall Jews, just drunk, just singing fucking Christmas carols and shit. That's what I heard.
I don't know.
You said yarmulkes and casinos, so I thought maybe
There's
maybe
a
I would
there's,
give.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it
there's
sounds
not
like a
really
fun.
an encouragement to become Jewish. There's very little encouragement. Even when there are people who would dive right in, and people who do. Don't get me wrong. I think that we're getting at a better system. I think Noahide was great 20 years ago. I think that it worked. It allowed for a medium or a common ground on which anybody could listen to a rabbi and not have a stigma attached to them. But
Right.
if we're learning anything now, it's that what people want is more. People want more than just not ripping the leg off a donkey, or more than just not worshiping an idol. It's not enough.
Well,
Go ahead.
here's the other thing: is that there's a lot of stigma with Judaism because we don't exactly have. We do have an orthodoxy, but we don't have an orthodoxy with. We don't have like a papal state or like any official one guy that says like Catholicism, where it's like this is the fucking thing, or like the Church of England where the Queen's in charge, which I think is fucking ridiculous, but whatever. So we don't have an orthodoxy in that sense. So a lot of people don't know who to look for, or who to look to set precedent within the Jewish world, and they seem to think that Netanyahu is the king of the Jews or something, which is absolutely not the fucking case. No, it's
Another one. Another one. Go ahead.
It's just it's kind of ridiculous too, because people think, well, first of all, I'm not even sure that I believe in Israel as the established state that's there now, because I've been sort of reading up on this shit, and I get a little tinfoil hatty about the whole thing, but I don't even think we're supposed to be there. I mean, we were kicked out. We're not supposed to return to Israel yet, right? Am I wrong on that?
There's no prohibition. Returning
There's no
to Israel.
prohibition.
None.
All right. Well, it seems like God was pretty pissed about the, anyway. But the point is that, like, I've sort of developed a nuanced position on what Israel is exactly when it relates to Torah, and it seems to be Israel is wherever her people are. It's not. Somebody said something to me about, oh, it's like, I don't know if you've seen the movie, but Thor Ragnarok.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not
and I was
Asgard is not a land; it's a people.
Right, and I was like, well, that's kind of gay, but also yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The land is actually God's, but Israel is Israel with or without the land, which is difficult.
Right,
really
exactly.
Is. The Cherokee are still Cherokee, even though they were kicked off of half their land.
Right, exactly. And if you just a quick aside, since we're talking about Native Americans, it's like Nakasuchi, the raging atheist, the guy I had the drinking contest against. He likes to talk about his Native American thing, and I think he's been talking about it more because I keep bringing up the Jew thing, and we're competing for oppression points. I think I got him beat. The Holocaust was pretty shitty. I think, and not only that, but one genocide versus I don't know how many throughout history. This is not a game you're going to win, my friend. Let's just not play it. I don't want to play it. Why are you playing it? But yeah. But it's like, he seems to think that because he's Native American, he doesn't even know what flavor. And he thinks that we just stole the whole fucking... No, some of them just left. They just left and went to Canada because they saw all these other people getting fucked, so they just left. And not only that, but a lot of people don't understand that we did sign the document with the Native Americans saying that they could have their shit, that they could have their shit. Now, the problem is that would require them, legally speaking, to have a single tribe. The document in question is still in possession of tribal elders, but if the Native American tribes do not come together and unify under a single, I don't know what you'd call it, chieftain or whatever, and then sign that document, this treaty, and return it to the American government, and the American government would be obliged to acknowledge that and parse out that land for them. If they don't do that, they're not getting it back. But if they did do it, this is hundreds of years of legal precedent, that then they're not getting their fucking shit back. They could have it tomorrow if they wanted to, but they still can't agree on jack fucking squat. So
Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
yeah, it kind of does actually. Maybe this has more to do with Judaism than I thought.
I find a lot more parallels in the history of the Native American the past 300-400 years, because there's a meme that goes around. I'm a libertarian. I subscribe to I'm a small L libertarian. I'm more anarchist. I can't stand most of them, but there's a great meme that shows a picture of an Indian, and he was horseback, and it says, so someone stole your land. How bad for you, or something like that, in reference to Israel. I can't remember how it was worded. And I'm like, well, actually, I'm kind of there too. I think, there's a civil court case right now to find out if half of Oklahoma is still native. And according to all the treaties, it is. But the white man's just kind of like assumed that they could take charge of it.
Well, that's the thing, is the document hasn't been signed and returned. They don't have a single authority that they abide to. It wouldn't even necessarily have to be a one guy, like a president sort of thing. All they have to do is come together as a single faction, sign a document that says we are one faction, and then hold office or whatever, or hold hold an election of some kind, or they have to agree that they have some sort of system of governance which declares somebody a fucking leader within the legal parameters of the United States. So like trial by combat for leadership would be something that would be prohibited within that clause. Right. So like, when some Native American, I guess that provision was in there because some Native American cultures had a trial by combat type thing, and it wasn't hereditary. Like if you had a king of the Native Americans, for lack of a better term, that would work just as well as a democratically elected chief or whatever. So, but they can have that. They can have their shit. They can have their shit back legally if they just do what's the goddamn thing says.
Sounds very familiar. Rosalie, shalom. Welcome.
Shalom alaikum.
Good Yom Tov. Good Yom Tov.
Thank you. Good Yom Tov to you too.
I tell you what, I cuss like a sailor. I'm gonna have a fun time in Gehenna. It's gonna be a real treat.
I'll bring marshmallows.
Yeah, I'll bring somebody bring beer.
I figure I'm only gonna get a couple hundred years. I could deal with that. It's better than the eternity I was being offered under Christianity too.
According to the most strictest opinion, a Jew only gets 11 months in hell.
Max.
Oh, cool.
At max, you can't spend more than a year. No one's that bad.
Oh wow!
Just think of it. That's 11 months in fire.
Oh, that's max. That's the maximum sentence.
Right.
That's the most. Oh. Yeah, that's the most stringent opinion is 11 months. Yeah.
And you have to do something really, really bad. You've been encrusted. Yeah, that was the word they used in the new Noah movie. I watched that the other night.
Yeah, that's not the floor. That's the ceiling. I'm nowhere near the ceiling. I haven't murdered anybody yet. I mean, if I keep working in this factory, I might lose my shit. But I'll make a case to God. I'll just say, well, temporary insanity, Your Honor, and be like, case dismissed. I sentence you to fucking 3 months in the pit, and I'll be like, all right.
Another factory in the same conditions. That was the punishment.
Well, it'll be all right because my attorney is Jewish too, and he'll be down there with me.
Attaboy.
down there with my fucking CPA and my doctor.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons that people are so they think they're anti-Semitic. I really don't think a lot of them hate Jews. They just hate an image, much like the Christians worship one.
Well, like I was telling you off air about that guy who said that anti-Semitic shit, right? And I'm sure.
What was the context? Say it again for listeners.
There really wasn't much context. The context of what he said doesn't make any sense in context with what I was saying, but I'll say it again. So I was at work, and there's this guy who apparently doesn't like Jews very much, all right? He's very old. He looked like he could have lived through the fucking Great Depression, all right? So more teeth than brain cells. So I'm talking to a couple of guys that I'm friends with at work, and I'm just bitching because I guess Jews love to bitch. So I started doing that more frequently. It's actually good for my health. It makes me less stressed. Anyway, I was bitching about having to eat really super kosher, like go full Jew for Passover, and I was like, oh God,
The term is kvetching.
Oh yeah, well, right. I think my mom used to say that. Anyway, so I'm sitting there. I'm sorry, kvetching. Are you happy now? About having to eat.
I mean, come on, pronounce the chet a little bit. Come on, man.
I can't. I can't. I used Flonase today. Can I get on with the story?
Okay.
Jesus.
Flonase.
Fuck. Yeah, I don't have enough phlegm. Anyway, so I'm kvetching about having to be a super Jew for Passover, and this guy, apropos of nothing, says, and I know what the context for his thought is, because there's Passover commercials right now about Holocaust survivors, these old Jewish women who have to live in post-Soviet Russia, who are freezing and starving to death because they can't even chop wood or kill a fucking rabbit to feed themselves or keep themselves warm. So they're asking for donations for blankets and shit. And I'm sure this guy goes to church and his pastor said, Jesus for Jews or some nonsense. And he said, well, maybe if the Jews worked harder, they wouldn't be starving and freezing to death. I just like, what the fuck was that about?
That's what it was. Okay.
What do you mean? These women are like 90 plus years old. It was the Holocaust. It was a long time ago. To be old enough to remember the Holocaust, you would have had to at least been 10 at the time. And how many fucking years ago was this? 70, 80 years? I don't know. I don't have a calculator out. But the point is that these are old ass women who have fucking arthritis in everything. They have arthritis in their fucking like ass bones, probably, I'm sure. And yeah, it's like, well, maybe if they worked harder. Well, what, Jesus Christ, why didn't we fucking think of that? Maybe if we had just worked harder, we wouldn't have gotten genocided 3 or 4 or however many fucking times. No, you're absolutely right. God damn it. I guess I'll just fucking work harder. I'll try not to get killed. I'll try not to get fucking, all right, that's a good idea.
The Jewish work ethic. That's what did it.
Yeah.
Shalom, Asher.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up? Happy last day of Passover.
Yay. Yom Tov.
Not for me. Saturday night's my last day of Passover.
Asher, I don't know if you met Will. Will recently discovered his lineage is kosher, and got the paperwork and everything, and took it to his, took it to temple, and he's in.
Well, not quite. I got 3 years worth of what I get. I guess
CCD.
I got my papers. It's gonna take J-Dubs even longer. I don't know what the fuck. What some fucking Meshuggah pastor rabbi person over there is smoking a little bit too much of the ganj, which, by the way, I found out was kosher. I didn't know.
Sir.
Yeah.
It'll make you lazy and stupid. I wouldn't recommend being lazy and stupid.
Yeah,
it is kosher. You can use it to heal. Now, Asher is all
speaking-
about being Jewish. Asher is like the be Jewish rabbi of, I'll just say, coast to coast. I mean, that's the name of his channel. Be Jewish. That's the fulcrum of what he just beating. It's like, just do it. It's like the Nike swoop. You could put a Nike swoop with a little Star David in there. That would be Asher Mason. Just do it. Just be Jewish. Well, Asher William is being Jewish, and he's just learned the Meshuggah aspect of Passover, and the no yeast, the no chametz, no leaven. You know. Anyway, that's cool, and good to see you.
Thank you.
We're jazzing.
How are your waffles and pancakes?
You know how the Jews have kind of like bought it a bit. You know, they kind of, I don't want to say they earned it, but there's a lot of anti-Semitism. I would think that 90% of it is based on image. And I don't think that people really hate Jews. And I mean, some of them try to use the religious argument. Like, there were some Jews in Jerusalem who said they're doing the Passover Seder, or they're doing the Passover offering or sacrifice. And I'm in a group where a bunch of Christians spazzed hard. And I'm like, guys, it's a meal. It's a meal. You know, even if it's official or not, they're just having a meal and doing it in God's name. I don't know how kosher it is, but I don't really think that that's, you know, when God says to remember it forever. And I would find that the zeal of offering the lamb at Passover publicly for the sake of him is not necessarily a bad thing. I know there's no temple, but I couldn't find shame in doing it. But, you know, but when the Christian sees it, they're saying, like, you know, they're thinking Isaac, you know, only there's no ram. You know, Abraham just does it. And that's what goes into their mind, is they're doing these devil worshiping offerings and smoke and fire. And they have this thing in their minds. And I want to clear up myth and fact and you know, because in some ways the Jews have earned it. You know, when it comes to the bank in the 20th century, past 200 years, it might have been abused. But when you go back to who put Jews in banking anyway? Why are Jews in banking? Why? Because of the lords and the counts and the dukes and the kings of Europe could find no better use for a Jew than his money. And so they got good at it.
That's partially right. The goy, the Gentile, have when Christianity crept its way out into the eastern parts of Europe from Rome, they came with it its rules and laws, because Christianity was used as a form of Orthodox religion and a form of the state itself.
Yes, sir.
So one of the rules is usury. It comes down to Jesus in the temple. Gentiles were not allowed to lend money, but I don't know if you know anything about fucking economies, but money lending is one of the most essential parts to a functioning economy. Even if you have a barter system, there are things that you need to buy that you don't necessarily have the capital to fund. So the only people in these societies who were allowed to do banking, which was considered a sin, was and money lending were the Jews and other groups, but you know, like gypsies at that time were being burned at the stake. But the Jews got off the hook just a little bit because they were still considered people of the book.
So it was the usury.
Yeah.
So yeah, whatever. It was that prevented money lending.
All of it. Yep. And that goes back to tradition with you know, taking up a trade and stuff too. It pairs hand in hand, and then of course you get you know, fucking TD Bank or whatever, but you also get the Bank of Rothschild and the Fed, which are all they're all sort of the same thing actually.
It's been perverted. I mean,
right.
And it wasn't just the Rothschilds. I just want to remind everybody, the Rockefellers aren't Jewish. You know, JB, whatever, Chase, not Jewish. You know, the Rothschilds is one family, and I honestly believe that World War II might have gone a little differently if there hadn't been some Jews in that banking. Could be wrong. I'm trying to be positive and positive forward thinking. I'm trying to be good about this.
So I don't think the Rockefellers were bankers; they were builders.
Didn't they
Right.
invent? But that's all right.
Well, banks at that time got their capital from investors, and one of the principal investors in a lot of banking was the Rockefellers because they had so much capital to lend. And then, of course, they got dividends from interest on loans like I think they were invested in the housing market, particularly real estate, especially being located centrally in New York in the city. So. But I do want to say I got to get going because I got to wake up at 3 a.m. But I did want to posit a quick anecdote about World War II while we're at it, and why we find ourselves in the present state we do, especially in Judaism and the state of Israel at present. Because those things obviously go hand in hand. Obviously, being reparations for the Holocaust. Although some people have wild conspiracy theories about that as well with NATO. The whole reason that World War II actually happened was. Is because the Bush family, and I shit you not, the Bush family, what was it, Texaco? I want to say it was Texaco Oil. The Bush family was giving oil, selling oil cheaply to the Germans during World War II. The war would have been over in a couple of months. The United States wouldn't have gotten it even involved if it wasn't for the Bush family. It was George Bush Jr.'s grandfather was selling
Prescott.
oil.
Prescott Bush, and he used the New York Banking Committee.
That son of a bitch.
To help launder it. Yeah.
And they would have run out of resources very quickly. They wouldn't have been able to power their tanks, no matter how sophisticated, because obviously tanks need fuel. And it would have been over in a couple of months. And Pearl Harbor would have never happened. The Japanese wouldn't have been able to basically the whole thing would have fallen apart very quickly, and you wouldn't have ended up with you'd have Kristallnacht and Night of the Long Knives and shit like that, but you wouldn't have had a genocide on such a scale that you did have. What are we up to? Every year it seems to go up a million. What are we, 100 million Jews or 300? I have no idea how many Jews died. Probably a lot. But and it's always the fucking Bush family, and it's like, okay, so we were talking about our libertarian bent, which I find myself a part of that political party.
Yep. Unfortunately, me too.
Yeah. And but so. Under Richard Nixon, the gold standard, which of course is one of the points of principle for the Libertarian Party, it was abolished under Nixon. At which point we went to a zero-sum currency. If not for the fact that we switched to something that people commonly call the petrodollar. Basically, what happened was Richard Nixon made some deals with Saudi Arabia because your dollar, if there's no standard and it's not backed by your currency is not backed by anything, that of course means that your currency is worth whatever it's worth for somebody to not go to fucking prison, which is subjective. So that doesn't work. It's more subjective than the value of gold, say. So Richard Nixon says, well, we're only going to trade in Saudi Arabian oil, or Saudi Arabian oil is only, Saudi Arabia is only going to trade its oil in United States currency. So now the dollar of our, the value of our dollar is based on Saudi Arabian oil. So who has investment and holdings in Saudi Arabian oil? George Bush Sr., the father of the Herbert Walker. I always forget who's Herbert Walker and who's just W. I think Herbert Walker is his father, and then George W. is his son. Initials.
Right. You're right.
And it's like all this shit, and Saddam Hussein later on, after his father, after that fiasco in the fucking Persian Gulf, all that shit. And then 9/11 and the hijackers, and how many of them were from fucking Saudi Arabia, and the Saudi crown doesn't know nothing about no terrorists or whatever, and it's like it's always been the Bush family, and then if it wasn't for Donald Trump, God bless his soul, we might have ended up with, if the Bushes had their way, a third fucking Bush president, and another fiasco probably in the Middle East or some other place where they have holdings.
Jeb Bush, the one that didn't get the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck at birth, right?
Imagine being from a family where the intelligent one is named Jeb.
Honestly, I think me and W could, and I think he and I would have a good time. I really think me and W could go to a Texas Ranger game and drink Miller Genuine Draft.
I wouldn't bring that fucker to a Texas Roadhouse. Fuck that guy.
No,
No, absolutely not.
before he was president, he helped beef up the Texas Rangers, which was my home state. And
Well, I know that's fine. I love the foosball as well, but the thing of it is that I make fun of George W. Bush, and everybody calls him all kinds of shit and makes fun of him because the whole playing dress up thing in the White House was weird, and the tacos and calling Condoleezza Rice Condi for no reason. But he's Harvard educated, so he can't be that fucking stupid. I mean, granted, he probably bought his way into that too, but he still had the paths, right? And you look at some of the things that he had written in the speeches he gave when he was Texas governor, and they're completely different in comparison to when he was president. So my theory is that he played dumb the whole thing so that people could just write it off as him being stupid instead of being nefarious. I think he was nefarious.
I think he went to Yale.
Oh, was it Yale? I thought it was Harvard.
Yeah.
All those Ivy League schools bleed together. They're all paid for fucking institutions anyway. But not to get on a political bet. But the whole point is the destabilization of the Middle East and all these problems with Israel and if we go back far enough, the goddamn Holocaust are all basically problems that were created or perpetuated by the same goddamn dynasty that's been making shit difficult for the Yid for what is almost 100 years now.
Daddy studying.
You what?
I'm sorry, I had someone's trying to get in here and have fun.
Oh my!
It's Daddy's Torah time.
Oh my!
Catherine.
Well,
yeah, I got a skedaddle skadoodle. Did you have anything for me before I do that?
No, it's fine, man. You're good.
All right.
Be well. Have a good day at work and Shabbat Shalom and be well, my friend.
Oh, yeah. Shabbat Shalom, my Hebrew amigos. I will hopefully see you again next Thursday or before if I make time. It's a shame you guys don't do anything on Saturday. I'm just kidding. I'll see you later.
All right, man.
All right.
Bye-bye.
I can understand why there's contention, against Jews in the Goyim world, to some extent. What I want to get through, or what I was hoping to get through, are the myths and the facts. Because people were moving to Israel before 1949. I know that blows some Goyim minds, and they can't handle it, and they'll have a spaz. But yeah, there was. I got kids in here now. There were Jews moving back to the land of Israel long before there was ever a Balfour Declaration, before there was a central bank in America. There was a strong movement to get back to the roots. They resurrected the Hebrew language. There's no good reason. I don't think there's a good reason not to go to Israel anymore. Personally, I understand why Jews stay where they are and why the families stay there, but I don't think there's an excuse not to. And I think the argument amongst Christians in the Western world is that they have no right. Only God can call them back. I'm like, well, what do we got? Wait for God? Or what, are we waiting for another Exodus? Do we need another 10 Commandments? Is that what we need? Do we need another great civilization to fall? You know, what we have to, I don't understand the waiting for God thing. I mean, that's their homeland, and that's where God says, "You sojourn with me." So why wouldn't, you know? But I don't know. People have makes. People have ideas. 1949. That's a big year. People like to bring up. I guess when Israel declared their independence. I guess I don't get it.
It's
Moving in
48.
and taking their land. I don't get that. There's a lot of stuff anyway. Rosalie, Asher,
Yes.
y'all talk. Say something. John, you hadn't said much either. So y'all have any thoughts? Any
Yeah.
ideas?
I'm listening. I'm all ears.
All right.
I mean, there's not really much to say. I mean, at this point, go back, don't go back. If it was up to me, I'll I might live on the settlement. The settlements are nice, actually. They're nice over there. Got to worry about missiles dropping on your head every once in a while. It's that's not fun.
It's the resistance. In the States in particular. The Europeans are suckers. They'll believe anything. They say lots of goofy stuff.
I'm not a fan of people who just like rant on conspiracy theory. I mean, I was just like
Thank you.
listening to everything he was saying and just like sort of staying quiet, but it's like way off. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
thank you.
What?
Here, look. When the U.S. entered the war in 1939, well, the Holocaust didn't start till 1941.
Mhm.
Okay, so for him to say that George Bush, started the Holocaust or had it's like he just kept on like just talking conspiracy crap. Where, like, find me like where anywhere where does it say that like since we moved off the oil standard or the gold standard, which didn't start with Nixon, actually started with Roosevelt, right? It basically ended with Nixon, but that our money was in some way calculated through Arab oil. Like when nowadays we produce more oil than Saudi Arabia. Like it's just like, anyways, whatever.
And Hitler was knee deep in with the Muslims too. So Saudi Arabia was
Well,
there.
clearly Prescott Bush is
He might have had something to do with it, but come on, it's like Hitler
Prescott-
was in with the Muslims too. So
yeah, I'm not. I mean, clearly people had their hands, especially with Texas Oil and stuff like that. When I just that John F. Kennedy's family like also was involved, but to say that they caused the Holocaust and it's kind of and conspiracy with theories that they caused all the wars and I don't whatever, like I'm not
I'm over it.
Things in life either confirm the obvious or are typically wrong, so when it's like like nefarious intent and guys in the background running the show. It's the same thing what they say about Jews, So, what, it won't stick on Jews, but it'll stick on neocons. I don't know. Anyway,
It'll stick on a bush. It'll stick on a bush.
yeah, there's no conspiracies out there because people can't keep secrets mainly. But anyways, so yeah, so the reason Jews can't enter the land, I mean, what does the Torah say?
Does the Torah ever say that?
Well, Jews could enter the land. I mean, but not as a national movement, right? I mean, I mean, Jews lived in the land when, like you said, Jews started migrating in the 1800s. That was known as the first Aliyah, 1870, I believe, and then like the second Aliyah was, like Golda Meir. I think migrated in what's known the second Aliyah here, which is like the pioneers, the ones who were draining swamps and everything. So this is pre 1948. But yeah, I mean, the claim laid by the anti-Zionists who live in Israel, most anti-Zionists live in Israel, like Orthodox ones. The claim they make is that they were there before the establishment of the state. The Jews in Mea Shearim, which is probably like one of the more ultra-Orthodox neighborhoods in Israel, existed before there was a state of Israel. and they actually were against the establishing the state of Israel even before there was a state. All right, and so it,
But
you know,
were they rejecting the British mandate for Palestine
the British mandate
in
for Palestine.
1922? I
Oh
mean, did
no,
they have a problem with that? Was that okay? And you know, was it
Balfour
okay to call it
Declaration.
Jewish? Was it okay to call it Jewish Palestine, but not okay to call it Israel? You know, I mean, that was 20 years that was a half a generation where that
no,
was
Jews
their
never
land.
called Israel, you know, till after 1948. They would
Yeah.
call it Palestine. You know, like the Jerusalem Post was called the Palestinian Post. El
Mhm.
Al that was called Palestinian Airways, and it was all Jewish owned. And Arabs like actually would get upset if you would call them Palestinian because they were Arabs. You know,
Yeah.
it, it wasn't only until Arafat, you know, started this whole campaign, like quite intelligently, uh, to make it seem like the Palestinian people were people there who lived with their own ethnic culture. No, they were Arabs. They were Arabs, you know, but they knew that if they just made it seem like they were Arabs, being that a whole region is Arab, people wouldn't pay attention. But if when they invented an ethnic, you know, identity called Palestinian that made it seem like they're the oppressed minority, then everyone would be on their side, and that's what happened, right? But
Or
yeah, but it, you know, there's no justification for a Jewish state, at least according to the Torah perspective. Now, that doesn't mean that Jews can't live there, right? And you know, like in huddle together or whatever, you know. But right when you're saying like we're establishing or we're reestablishing our biblical homeland from a religious perspective, that's the problem. And that's not really what's being done because the vast majority of people in the Knesset aren't religious. Okay, but this is just what they tell people who are not Jewish. For example, the first place that every diplomat is taken to when they enter Israel is Yad Vashem, which is the the Holocaust memorial in Jerusalem. Why? Because that's the reason that the secular Jew gives for the establishment of the state of Israel. And it's true. If there wasn't a Holocaust, there would never have been a state of Israel because the world felt bad, and then you know basically like voted to you know like establish a Jewish state.
so they weren't happy with Jewish Palestine and the Transjordan.
Who?
Why? Well, I'm trying to understand that. I never, and I read, but I'm still stuck in the 30s. I haven't gotten this far yet. What was the need? Was it casting out the British for what they did during the Holocaust, not letting any of the Jews go home? That said, okay, we're going to create a separate identity for this area that we live in for Jewish Palestine, which would, you know, that's what I'm wondering about is what made them change. And only recently did I find out that, you know, the Brits were in charge of Palestine at the time of World War II. And when the Jews were seeking asylum, you know, America rejected them. Every country was rejecting them. And the Brits wouldn't allow them in Jewish Palestine. So I was wondering if after the war, they said, screw this, we don't need you anymore. And so they renamed and redefined themselves, whatever, PR, I don't know, to be called the State of Israel. But I'm wondering why the change, because this is a big contention on patriotic Americans who go absolutely ballistic with support to Israel because they believe something happened in 1949 where a whole bunch of people took over. Was there a coup in Jerusalem we're not talked about? No one talks about, or
Well, most Jews during World War II weren't trying to enter the land of Israel. I you know, for example, like if you watch the Paul Newman movie Exodus, right? I mean, this is all post-war, right? That after the war, they weren't allowing Jews to enter. I don't think Jews were trying to escape. You know, I mean, Palestine wasn't a country, and like England or like Great Britain was at war. Like I don't think they were denying people to enter Palestine. You know, Hitler uh, like his goal was to enter Israel, or with that portion in Palestine and capture the Jews there as well. And he made it pretty close with, like Erwin Rommel, Desert Fox, or whatever, in the campaigns of like Morocco and like no, so it wouldn't have been safe for Jews either. But it was after, with all the displaced persons, that the Jews then were trying, like the Jews that were left over from Europe that were trying to enter Israel, and that's when they took them to Cyprus, and they held them there. But like, and they had boats that's well, the movie Exodus is based on that, like on a boat that basically there was a hunger strike, and there was another boat that blew itself up, as a strike, instead of being turned back. But I don't think this happened during the war. I don't, yeah. I don't think the average Jew like would have thought of going to Palestine at that time, just because they were caught so off guard. Right now, clearly, like those who were fleeing Europe weren't fleeing the Holocaust, because there was no Holocaust then, right? But like Germany told them that they would either leave or be put in a concentration camp. So a lot of them chose to leave, but the only countries that would take them in mass are were China. That was one that took, I think, the most Jews, right? And it's just because people didn't really know what was happening. Of course, yeah. There's like the Jews of Shanghai. Well, as a matter of fact, with the Mir Yeshiva, I mean, one of the most prestigious yeshivas in Jerusalem, where the whole yeshiva moved to the Mir. And if you just type in Mir Yeshiva, which is like MIR Yeshiva, like on YouTube, and Shanghai, where you'll see how like they've had like reunions with Chinese people who helped them and everything like that. I just interviewed for the synagogue I worked for, because like next week is Yom HaShoah, like the Holocaust Memorial Day, the Remembrance Day. So then I interviewed two old ladies, Holocaust survivors, who were sent to Shanghai from, and they lived there for 10 years during the war. Yeah, they had it bad there also. I mean, the Chinese were getting slaughtered by the Japanese, but the people that they were actually helping them out were the communists. Now China wasn't communist back then, but like, there were different factions, but they were the ones who were, yeah. But yeah, in terms of Jews being allowed to return to the land of Israel, well, the Torah says that God will bring you back. Right now, He's always speaking in the collective, you as Israel, the people. Right? I mean, if He exiles you for behaving inappropriately, it's hard to believe that He would let you back, especially when you're worse than the way you left, right? Because early Zionists were atheists, well, they were communists, but they didn't even want to settle in Israel. The first places that were suggested was a place in the Soviet Union called the Jewish National Homeland, and another place was Uganda, another place was Argentina, right? And this was all under Herzl. And it was only, I think, after he died that they proposed Israel, because he didn't want to go to Israel, Herzl. And then yeah, what that shows that the average Zionist was not religious. Like Herzl's idea was that he should have a meeting with the Pope, and because for him it was just like a race. Like, he viewed his people as a race, and then he was gonna work out a deal with the Pope that all the Jews would convert to Catholicism, but still, like, maintain their like racial identity, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure he had no understanding of Sephardi Jews and like other Jews, and then so these guys really don't represent us. This is why the average Orthodox Jew before 1948 was anti-Zionist, but then after like their homes were destroyed in Europe, not every Jew could make it to the U.S. So then,
well, no one. Here's the thing: no one thinks of those who began to work in the 17th century to bring back the language, and then we get the 1800s come about, that is the 17th. Anyway, the 19th century, they go home, and they're making an effort. Isn't there? I mean, formulate this question properly. Weren't they Zionists?
Yeah, but they were secular Zionists.
In the 1800s. I mean, bring the Hebrew language back.
Right, they were secular Zionists. I mean, Golda Meir was an atheist and a Zionist. It sounds weird to us, because we don't view being Jewish as a race, right? Because we're thinking, like, how can you claim to be Jewish and proudly speak Hebrew or want to learn Hebrew and not even believe in God? So,
right, yeah, right.
So it makes sense to a secular Jew. I mean, most Jews nowadays are not religious, okay, but many of them insist that their kids should marry Jewish. Now, that kind of sounds like what Nazis have been doing. I mean, outside of murdering people, right? Now, I am not against, a white parent telling his kid that he wants, him to marry, like a white individual. I mean, I don't do that, but I don't think that's necessarily racist. I mean, like, to be proud of your race is not a bad thing.
Right.
Okay. But if you say that the other races are intrinsically, idiotic or whatever, that's another thing. That's wrong. Right. But, like, black people could say black power and, brown people could say brown power. But if you say white power, you're racist. That doesn't make any sense. Right. But mind you, back then, everyone was pretty much racist. This is why, like, when people point their finger at Hitler, and I'm not trying to defend Hitler, but I would say Hitler was as racist as Roosevelt was, right? I mean, well, there was segregation back then, like, I mean, it's not, even the U.S. military was segregated, okay. So it's not, now clearly Europeans didn't have this problem, because you don't have these problems when you come from a homogeneous society where everyone looks the same, right?
Gandhi's what Gandhi wrote, he was racist.
Shalom, William. Good to see you. I didn't see you when you came in. If you haven't, I hope you haven't been here too long before anybody greeted you. Shalom, my friend. Chag Sameach. Happy Passover. Go ahead, Asher. I mean to interrupt.
Well,
good host.
If you want an image of European racism at that time, just look at South Africa, right? In how so it's not. It's easy to point their finger at Hitler and saying he was racist, but everyone was racist.
Everybody. We were still the least racist country on the planet. I don't care what anybody says.
Well, I mean,
after the Civil War, after a generation or two passed, we were better than a lot of them, man. We weren't putting people in zoos, and the British had zoos for black children. Like they were.
Well, I think England was the first to abolish slavery, at least the transatlantic, slave trade. I mean, they made it illegal, and they stopped having slaves. But I mean, there were any.
I'll give the French credit on that as well. They followed suit nicely on that. Go ahead.
Well, in defense of Cuba, Cuba is like so unracist, you wouldn't believe it. Like they might say some things that Americans would consider racist, but there's no racism in Cuba. It's like none.
Because of communism. Communism, I mean, holds everyone to be.
Even before communism, my mother tells me stories about, it's a totally different experience.
I want some Cuban music in America. That's all I know. I want some hot new Cuban beats now.
Well, there aren't too many Cuban.
And the cigars.
Most Spanish music is not Cuban. Well, at least, I guess they don't do too well exporting their music. Right?
We don't let them in. We don't let them in. We've embargoed Cuban culture. I mean, there's a whole
the whole Cuban like music kind of ended because of communism. Communism kind of destroyed the whole Cuban.
Hey, Will, get closer to your mic, man, because I don't.
Sorry, is that better?
I don't have control tonight. They don't have the thing up, so I'll need you.
Yeah, I'm on my phone, so it might be a little.
Hey, there you go.
Is that better?
You sound fantastic.
All right. Yeah, but after communism, I mean, like the big Cuban stars, they kind of left Cuba because it destroyed the industry. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Cuban music.
Right. No. As someone who used to, I used to be a DJ for Spanish music. Right. It's rare whether you go to a club in here. Well, most Cuban artists, at least in the '90s, were Cubans living in Miami, and that's like Celia
Well, it's
Cruz, Willie
hip-hop.
Chirino.
Yeah.
I mean, back in like the '60s, like when did um like Benny
Cuban
Morel?
music was the shiznat in the 50s. That
Benny
beat
Moré was in. Unfortunately, he was like pro Castro, but Benny Moré was like in the 50s,
Uh,
and then I think he died. He died in, he was an alcoholic, so it kind of ruined his kidneys, but or his liver or whatever. He died of that, but yeah, he was huge. But that was in the 50s, when there wasn't communism.
right. Right. But
Bloody
yeah,
button.
what was he saying? Yeah.
So wait a minute. So I have a question,
Mm,
real quick. Sorry, I don't mean to like change gears here or whatever,
no, that's
but
fine.
I got a question. So it's a Yom Tov right now?
That's right. But don't tell people I'm on the internet. I mean, I've been telling. I mean, I made a whole video once about electricity on Shabbos and stuff like that. But it's
Oh no, I
technically,
won't tell
yeah.
anyone. But
No,
I'm
I mean
smoking a
this is
cigar.
live. I mean,
Am I good?
yeah. What do you mean? I mean in Yom Tov. I mean it's not Shabbat, but you're allowed to smoke cigar.
All right, I'm good then.
But on Jewish holidays, you're allowed to
I
smoke
left the tablet
cigars.
on before I got on. The tablet was on before I hit YouTube.
What I don't understand is, and Rebbe Rabs has been a friend of mine since the MySpace days, well over a decade. But he's like, I'm going offline, and we're not allowed to be online on the final day of Passover. Is that a Torah prohibition?
Well, it if you think it's prohibited on the Sabbath, then it would be prohibited for you on a Chag, on a Yom Tov, like yeah.
Okay,
But if you don't believe electricity is fire, then it's not prohibited. So it's it
but,
depends.
no. But is there anything in the Torah? I know everyone thinks I'm a K-right. I know, but I go back to the written word first. Is there anything in Torah that prohibits a Jew from getting online on the next to last day of Passover?
Well,
What
it's
is
technically the last day of Passover. Okay, like in
Friday?
America. Well, that's only in America, right? And
Oh,
right. So in Israel, where they only keep one day, which is the actual day. So it's a custom, and the Rambam even calls it a custom to keep 2 days. The question is, how binding is this custom? Okay, fine. Like we do it, right? I mean, I don't drive. I mean, that a combustible engine is fire, at least in my opinion, right? It really depends on how much intellectual energy you put into like trying to figure these things out. If someone just says, "Oh, it's all BS," anything rabbinic is stupid, and if it doesn't appear in the Torah is one thing. If someone says, "You know what, I've thought about it, and here's my response on why I do it or don't do it," that's respected. Because nowhere in the Torah does it say you can't use electricity because they don't know what electricity is. All
or
right.
fire. Is there anything that says on the? I guess we're at sundown now. The last day of Pesach.
Yeah, of course you can use fire. I mean,
Well,
it's
where did it say that? Where do we come up with that? How did the rabbis come up with it? How did they?
it says that in your dwellings you shouldn't kindle a fire on the Sabbath day.
On Sabbath, but we're not Sabbath right now.
No, but this is called a Shabbaton. Every holiday is called a Shabbaton. So they're all Sabbaths. So it
Yeah, it does say you shall not do any work.
right. I mean,
Right.
but
So melacha. So melacha, you have to define what melacha is. So if it's telling you not to do any work on the first or the last day of Pesach, then you have to then define what is work, what is
Okay.
melacha. So right. So I guess you can use fire, right, and you can cook, but you cannot kindle like you can't start a fire, right? Correct me
right.
if I'm wrong, Ash.
right? It has to be from an existing flame. So this is why, like, you're allowed to cook today, right? But from an existing flame. Well, that you can't do on Shabbat. It's same laws that apply for every holiday, whether it's Rosh Hashanah, Shavuot. These laws apply on Shabbat also, with the exception that you're allowed to cook for these days, right?
And
And
carry.
carry, correct, right? Like a room don't, like the Eruv doesn't apply for these days, but it's yeah. I mean, it says well, melacha is creative labor, right? So what's prohibited on the Sabbath in terms of creative labor is also prohibited on this, with the exception of lighting stuff. Just because Eruvim is not, I mean, there's, but most people say that that's rabbinic. I mean, it's not one of the 39 melachot. Like, don't carry, at least I don't think it is.
This is new to me.
Right on the Yom Tov.
One thing I don't understand is at the synagogue that I go to, they leave all the lights on. They leave everything they leave on before Shabbos because they say, oh, okay, if you leave it on, then it's on. You don't touch it. So why can't that apply to like your computer, your car, your phone,
No, it does apply. No, I mean I know people who don't use electricity on Shabbos in terms of turning it on and off. And then, I mean, I've known rabbis who just leave the TV on in their room, and then whatever,
Right. Don't touch the remote. You just leave it on and that's
right.
it.
Yeah, but then they'll say it's not Shabbostic, but that's subjective. I mean, that's just because you don't like doing it. I mean, it's Shabbostic for me. Yeah.
But what does that even mean? It's not in the spirit of Shabbos. That doesn't even, whatever.
Well,
No, it's subjective.
And look, I'm gonna. It is objective, but I kind of agree. Cut the TV off, leave it off, and enjoy people for a change.
Well, what if you were people all week? Like you're like a social worker or something, and on freaking Shabbos you watch TV only. But
it's a different experience when you're like around friends. If you're a social worker, you're dealing with people that you're not in that close. You know what I mean, as far as a relationship.
Just what if you have friends? Yeah, no, right, because it makes sense to you because it's Shabbostic to you. There's no such thing. There's no halacha that things have to be Shabbostic. Now there is a halacha that there has to be a separation between what's called hol, which is like the mundane, and the holy. But that doesn't mean that only because you find something mundane that someone else is going to find the mundane. I mean, it's completely subjective. In other words, I mean, that's not a real thing. Right. If you're European, I mean, European people drink bland soup and eat fish, right? So that's like Shabbostic for you, But eating a pizza, I mean, could be like your own Shabbat, like your pleasure or whatever enjoying. Yeah, it's whatever. It's completely subjective. But no, the issue is turning electricity on prohibited. So for sure it's not prohibited. But the only people who say that electricity is fire are people who haven't done the research, and even big Orthodox rabbis, for example, Rav like Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. He wrote a whole book, on it's called Minchat Shlomo, that he talks about how electricity is not fire. But then at the end of the book, he says that he doesn't use it because it's like a custom now not to use it, right? But every scientist will say that like the properties of electricity are not the same as the properties of fire. For example, like fire can't exist in a vacuum, right? Like if you put like a glass on top of a match, it's going to go off. But electricity could exist in a vacuum, right? I mean, that's how light bulbs work.
Don't like the Sephardic. Don't they use electricity on a Yom Tov?
No, no. Nowadays, everyone has sold out, like because of the Chazon Ish, and like the vast majority of people don't do it. But I don't like why.
I know, what's his name of
right, Hamovadia? No, yeah, but he uses it on Shabbat too, right? It's just a lecture.
On Shabbat?
The lecture he gave, he called it like light bulbs on Yom, or electricity on Yom Tov, but I think he premised it like that to encompass everything else, because what's the difference between a Yom Tov and a Shabbat? A Shabbat is a Yom Tov, with the exception of like a fire, in terms of cooking, all right? Everything he said in that lecture, and you were I remember the first time I heard it is because you sent me that lecture. Uh, applies to Shabbat also, and it was that lecture that inspired me to make like my audio lecture, which I think kind of like took it a little further because I called it Shabbat and not just Yom Tov.
Right.
But
right.
yeah, I mean, you know, I'm sure that guy that uses electricity on Shabbat.
Shalom, Aaron. Welcome to the Hangout. Good to see you, sir.
Hello, everybody.
Hey. So yeah, so when there's another Sanhedrin, we'll see like, what's the big ruling on electricity. But till now, you know, when it came out, all the rabbis used it. But like I said, it was I think in the early 1900s that the Chazon Ish had a problem with it, which is a European rabbi who like moved to Israel and became very famous. And since he had a problem with it, then people started hopping on board and saying, "Oh, it's not allowed. It's not allowed." But there's a lot of rabbis who use it just secretly because this is one of the first things. I mean, it's funny. I made that video and all my haters, it's like they skipped the video. I don't know, like if the video is a little too complicated for them to follow, because I think if they really knew that I was saying that you could use electricity on Shabbat, I mean, that's the first thing they would use to like throw me under the bus, because they're like, oh, only Reform people do that, but it's not. There's a lot of Orthodox people who do it. They just don't say it because they're dealing with the dumbing down of the religion, So the people who make the most noise are the people who are like the least educated. Right. Like my biggest haters are like Noites, like, I mean, people who don't know anything about Judaism, but just know that I don't sound like Tovia Singer, so they're just like, oh, well, he's fake. Oh, he's this and that.
Noahites.
But,
what a bunch. What were you talking about, John? It was like you were saying something. I don't know if it was in a comment or not. It's like or in a video you did this week. It was you have to get beyond the Noahide thing. It's my biggest haters too, by the way, Asher, are Noahides.
No, it's because. So what do you expect that when you have? It's because now there's resentment in the Noahide community, especially like if you challenge their gods. So clearly their gods or their intermediaries are just Tovia Singer and Michael Skobek. Like even though I'm sure like they regret it, right? I mean, Tovia Singer, like he made a lecture in the TV and saying like, like most of you guys are like imposter Gentiles because according to his Kabbalistic logic, whether these guys have like Jewish souls and they should just convert, right? I'm sure he's seeing all these people who would have potentially become Jewish if he wasn't pushing this Noahide nonsense, and he's seeing all the people who took advantage of that. There's a lot of rabbis making a living off of the students of Tovia Singer, who, I mean, he told you from the beginning, he's not there to make Noahites, he's not there to make converts, he's only there to bring Jews back to Torah. Okay, so then people saw an opportunity to capitalize on that. Well, you have all these Christians dropping Christianity. Let's start printing books about Noahidism. Well, let's start, because all these, think about it. If you're living in Israel, and people don't make a lot of money in Israel, and you start printing books and selling them on Amazon, and then like getting one person like this retarded lady April, right? To promote it, and then of course everyone in their group will do whatever they say. They will all buy the book if she says buy the book. It's funny. These guys leave one cult to enter another cult, right? I mean, you figure like you leave Christianity, like now that you're a free thinker, but you're not going to let anyone tell you what to believe. I mean, you have the Torah, and those, to give Karaites a little credit, those are what the Karaites have done. The Karaites, like once they left Christianity, where they realized the Noahide movement was stupid, but of course they were still being mistreated by the Orthodox, so they became Karaite. So I mean, no one's going to hold me down, right? But the ones who like wanted to be bossed around and whatever, like those are the ones who remained Noahites. It's like, and those who had a little more money or who happened to live in Jewish communities or nearby, converted to Judaism. There's all these little segments and everything, just because it was a great thing to shed light on the world and mention the inconsistencies of the New Testament and Christianity, but you have to also equip your movement to like for the backlash, for the result of all these people leaving Christianity, right? I mean, you just can't would destroy someone's faith and just drive away, right?
Yeah, that was what I felt happened to a lot of people, myself included. It was, and I'm going to just go straight out with the publishers of the Divine Code. You give us half a book, you rewrite it, and then you give us nothing. Nothing.
Right. Yeah.
You dumped it. You dumped it. We were on a roll. A lot of people were reading this publication, which is a wonderful. From what I understand, Rabbi Moshe Weiner was brilliant, and blessed be he for writing this book. The English translation is flawed, I found out, but we were into it. We were on it. We were willing. We wanted to do this. We wanted to engage it, and then you left us. Kind of like the commies left the people in Hollywood when they took off before the war. That's what happened.
But it was written in Hebrew first?
Yeah, English. He didn't write it in English. Rabbi Weiner wrote it in Hebrew. And
it's a book for Noahides. Why would it be written in Hebrew?
Michael Schulman's the one who translated it and edits things out and elaborates on things that shouldn't be, in my opinion. I'm not a Jewish scholar by any means, but from what I could tell, yeah, he kind of putzed it up a bit. But yeah, people were into this, and then they stopped, and then that was it. That was the end of it. It's been dead ever since.
Rabbi, actually, I think I kind of have to ask you: do you consider Noahidism the C word, a cult?
I don't know what a cult is. I mean,
words earlier. I don't know if you were just saying that, just hyperbolic.
No, but a cult.
How would you define cult, John? When you say cult?
Well, I mean, God forbid you say one word out of sentence, you have 50,000 maniacs.
No, but that's Judaism too. Then Judaism is a cult. Cult is like regulated to like a group that's not popular and it's not big yet, right? Okay. Once a cult gets very big, it becomes a religion, right? I mean, it's not part of the occult. It's just like a little. I mean, nowadays there's so many different religions, only because, trust me, people who are in a cult don't consider their religion a cult, right? They're figured, we're right, but we're small.
Would you consider Noahidism a separate and new religion from Judaism?
Oh, for sure.
There you go.
No, like the law is that keeping the 7 Noahide laws is what you must do if
or not die.
But if you're living on Jewish lands amongst Jews, your only choice is either to convert or at least keep these 7 laws. At least it's not something to aspire to, like, like thank God for making me a Noahide, right? It's kind of like, okay, you want to live, you don't want to die, keep these laws, okay? But from when I started doing this, from the beginning, I just told people, no matter where you're at, like take a little room out of your house, make a synagogue. We'll travel to convert your group for free. And then just call yourself a Jew. It doesn't matter if no one accepts you, okay? If enough people do this, they'll start accepting you. And then just give it, a structure. No, but then who's the first Noahide who started with this crap? Not Vendel Jones, like Sanders. Jack Sanders, right? Jack Sanders.
Vendel Jones is actually a pretty cool dude, and I don't think he should be mixed up with the whole it becoming a religion.
No, not him. Like Jack Sanders.
Oh, Jack Sanders. Okay.
All right. So he was like in Tennessee. I think was he in Tennessee, and then he was a Baptist preacher, and then he turned his church
into a Noahide study center, and they go in the
basement.
Right.
So he started it. So I think Vendel Jones reminds me of John Voight, right? That they're just guys who just want to be left alone and just be ethical and just do their own thing, but they're not out to start a worldwide.
Jones' daughter actually converted to Judaism, by the way.
Yeah, if their kids don't convert to Judaism, they'll become atheists. I mean, no kid remains a Noahide, right? Because who are they going to marry? I mean, there's just no structure for that. especially like if you walk around thinking that everybody's an idolater. At least a Jew, like who points their finger at everyone, as a Gentile or idolater, could
Dude,
fall back on Jews.
Dude, there's articles out in they're spreading on social media saying that the Rebbe and that the rabbis say that burning down churches in Israel is permitted. Why? Because at one time a rabbi said you have to get rid of all idolatry. Idolatry must be rid of the world. He asked a rabbi this, and the rabbi said, yes, idolatry must be eradicated.
Oh,
So they take that because of this Noahide bit, because of the passion the Noahide has in leaving Christianity. It is idolatry. When you realize Torah and the unity or the uniqueness of the God of Israel, so they've taken this, and it's been brought to me, and I get letters and emails still. It's where you consider Christians idolaters. Therefore, when you say you want to rid the world of idolatry, they take that and plaster it all over, right-wing conservative libertarian Christian groups and say that the Jews in Israel say that it's okay to burn down Christian churches because of idolatry. And you know what I'm saying? It's
okay. If you're going to classify Christianity as idolatry, when I mean I mean the Sanhedrin,
right.
There is no religious authoritative consensus in Israel, right? So this is the problem with entering the land prematurely from a religious perspective and thinking that now you're bound to keep the law in the land like a redeemed Israelite. It's true. If there's it's a command to uproot idolatry from the land. The question is what is idolatry? Okay, according to Ashkenazi rabbis of old, Christianity is not idolatry for Gentiles, at least, right? So and even some, would say to believe in Jesus is not idolatry for a Jew, as long as he's keeping Torah and all this stuff.
Can we safely say that it's not biblical idolatry? There's no molech. There's no worship. There's no child offering.
No, for sure. It's not literally biblical. In other words, all those gods are no longer, right? But rabbinically, there's certain things that are idolatry, because they've expanded what is idolatry, but it's not worshiping, like Shituf and anything. That's like 500 years ago, but in the Talmud, it doesn't talk about Shituf like that. That's idolatry.
The very fact that the Christian acknowledges the God of Israel kind of disqualifies him from biblical idolatry, wouldn't you say? Because as flawed as it is, but didn't that disqualify him from biblical idolatry on that?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think first of all, the Torah, the notion of being an idolater in Torah is not what's being referenced as an idolater nowadays. A biblical idolater is just someone who worships a physical foreign god, right? So that for sure excludes Christianity, right? Islam, I've always said personally, I guess we'll never really know, that Allah is a different god, just because they don't even really, they think that the Torah we have is corrupt. It's they have a different book, right? At least, Christians acknowledge the authenticity of what they call the Old Testament. But who knows? Islam is not mentioned in the Talmud. It came later, right? Christianity as a religion is also not mentioned in the Talmud. It came later. So, no one could try to burn down a church nowadays without, Yeah, no, this is why it's better to have Israel as a secular country than having religious Zionists. Thinking that they could start acting biblically. But there's a book called I think it's called Torah Melech. I think that I think it came out 10, 15 years ago. It was written by a religious Zionist, a settler, that wrote this whole thing whether we have an obligation to kill Christians in the land and burn down churches. But the Orthodox community was upset at it. It wasn't, yeah, it's not.
Would you? Could I have a question about the whole Noahidism as a new religion? Would that be a violation of Noahidism to begin with, for it to be
You
a
know,
new religion?
I don't know. I mean, like, for sure, like, it's a violation of what the Rambam wrote about it, but I don't know, like, if that is literally like if that was his opinion, because I don't know where it says necessarily in the Talmud or in the Mishnah that that a Gentile has to either keep these 7 laws or convert. Right? I mean, it says that, first of all, according to the Talmud, we don't even know how many laws a Gentile is supposed to keep. Like, in one statement it says 7. In one statement he has to keep all, with the exception of the Vela. So we don't really know. But everyone sort of hops on what the Rambam wrote because he's the first one to really codify all of Jewish law. So we have his understanding. Okay.
People
But
ran.
wouldn't it be fair to say, though?
Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
Wouldn't it be fair to say that the whole point of a Noahide is to cleave onto the Jewish people, cleave onto Israel and Judaism, not to
No.
distinct thing?
Should have been. It should have been, but what do Gentiles do? I mean, I don't mean to use that term. I want to say it. What do Gentiles do? They make their own religion. Ooh, I got something good. I'm fine. I got this. And they go run home and they start something. And
it's worse than
what did the Rebbe say? The Rebbe said, teach the Noahide laws. He didn't say that. I don't remember anything in Torah or in literature that says this is the foundation by which civilization was created.
Yeah, that's
read the text. It doesn't work out that way. The Noahide laws led to Babylon. The Noahide laws led to Babel, whatever, if you want to call them the same thing. The Noahide laws led to Egypt. The Noahide laws led to the. I mean, how sick do you want to get? I mean, because without Avraham, without a folk, there was a focus in Torah. All that Torah does is fine tune, and so I have a hard time with that whole BS that was sold to us, and I know that it was for our own good. I don't want to slam anybody here, but that BS sold to us that this was the foundation for civilization.
Yeah, that's not. Well, that's built off. Like a medrash
that kept us alive long enough to fuck up is what it did. That's what that kept mankind alive long enough to become decadent is what that did. Without Israel, without Torah. All right, go ahead.
There's enough for Noah.
No, there's a medrash that the Rambam made famous that Adam was given 6 laws and Noah was given the 7th law. And because of that medrash, everything was built off of saying, oh, well, if Adam was basically almost a Noahide and Noah was a Noahide, then everyone who came before and after were also Noahides. And, so much was built on so little, right? And no one ever asked, where is this in the Torah? They're like, oh, well, the rabbis say it, so that's the problem. We have to be able to separate what's a midrash, what's folklore and legend, and what does the Torah say? Now, folklore and legend could be true, but at the same time, it could be false. We don't know, right? But what you don't do is build a movement off it and have people who, at least as Christians, had eternal security from a Christian perspective. In other words, if you ask a Christian if he knows where he's going and where's his faith planted, he'll be like, I'm going to heaven because my faith is grounded, it's planted in Jesus Christ. Right, but now a Noahide, if you ask them, what's your faith planted in? Well, my faith is planted on a rabbinic tale, right? That might or might not be true because it's not in Torah anymore, right? But the rabbi never explains it like that. The rabbi makes it seem like, no. This rabbinic tale was given to us on Mount Sinai, and that's not true. Midrashim were not given to us on Mount Sinai. Torah Shebal Peh, Torah instructions, rabbinical instructions were given to us on Mount Sinai. Or those who teach that the oral law was given on Mount Sinai believe that it was law that was given to us on Mount Sinai, not folklore and legend, right? Especially when these legends contradict each other all the time, right? But this has never been broken down to the Noahide, So when I mention it, they'll be like, "Oh, well, you're a liar and you're not a rabbi," and
when I started off this thing, when I began the Noahide, it took about 6 years for me to grasp a hold of exactly how serious it was. When I began to read a parsha, and actually weekly with a study buddy, read the Parsha, study it, and then, and we read Divine Code, and we would go through these things. I never saw myself as a Noahide in Torah. I couldn't. In fact, I was lost from Genesis. Genesis is the book for the Noahide. It's not really. I mean, maybe on basic foundations of what it means to be human and the origins of civilization, but that's meaningless. I never saw myself as a Noahide. I was an escaped Egyptian who just kept close to, and this is my head 10 years ago, who kept close to Israel because I saw where the wind was blowing and they were nice enough to let me in and buy stuff and go to class or whatever. I never saw myself as a descendant of Noah when I read Torah. And this was me for 6-7 years of serious weekly, daily Torah, 3 times a week Torah study. We're nowhere in there. I mean, to say that the only thing that you can really study seriously involves a few chapters between Genesis 1 and 6 and a little bit of 9, I appreciate and thank the Rebbe for his work. Thank God for the Rebbe for his work in saying that the first thing we have to do is at least teach the world the Noahide laws, because if we're going to get along with them, this is the medium by which we do it.
Yeah, we don't got to be so polite. I mean, why can you say that? I mean, like, what he did was wrong. It was wrong. I mean, this whole nonsense that he's the greatest Sadiq of our... I'm not saying he's a bad guy.
He didn't teach them to create. He said, give them a Noahide religion. He never said, give them an identity in which to identify themselves.
He put a stumbling block. I mean, this was a stumbling block.
You think?
Like before the Rebbe, people were converting to Judaism, and there was no Noahide movement. But now, like suddenly, you need this extra step, right? No, it's because Chabad has always had disdain for Gentiles, right? It's, I mean, it's not, it's like, don't be nice to, I mean, man, I'm just, come to Torah. The Jews accepted Torah on Mount Sinai. Like, why can you accept Torah from the comfort of your home in Oklahoma? Why? Like, it's the same crap. But if you were a secular Jew who knew as much about Torah as a Gentile, did, that he would welcome you with open arms. So it has nothing to do with gradual steps coming to Judaism, because he'll drag you there, like if you happen to have a drop of Jewish blood, but he'll put like a stumbling saying, oh, well, just remain a Gentile. That's what he said. He said, if you were born a Gentile, you should be proud of being a Gentile, and if you're born ethnically or racially a Jew, you should be proud of being that, right? Which is stupid, right? I mean, if you're born with,
it sounds old-fashioned.
It's bigoted. It's bigoted. It's not racist. It's bigoted. It's kind of like, like, son, why are you dating a black girl when there's like a bunch of good white mates out there for you, and you're like, okay, I understand, grandma. She's old-fashioned. Right, but nowadays, now that grandma's dead, we could call grandma a bigot.
I'm not laughing at you, my friend.
No, it's all right. I mean, I'm not white, or at least like my soul is white. I'm a coconut. I'm white on the inside. I'm brown on the outside.
Brown, yeah.
That's how we do it.
I don't know. I kind of like the twerking, Rabbi.
Do what? What you doing?
I said I kind of like the twerking, Rabbi.
Twerking?
Twerking when they twerk.
No, I don't want to think of twerking, Rabbi.
Oh, the black women.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's right. Oh, because you're white. Like your ex-wife is black.
No.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that must have been hard for you in the Spanish world. Spanish people are a little racist.
Yeah, that was. When I was in Cuba. It was funny because there's a saying in Spanish. You'll get this, Asher, the room probably. But it rhymes. So my cousin, we were riding. He's like, hey, why do you like black women? And I'm like, bueno, para jardines se han hecho flores. No, ¿cómo es? Para gusto, colores y jardines las flores. All right. And he's like, coño, chico, pero los colores tuyos.
Can you? Okay, now for those of us who.
So you said, that. Like for the garden was made the coloreds? No. Like No. Like for the
But
gardens were made, the
for-
white people.
For good, it's for how would you say gustos? Like,
Your likes,
yeah,
like
your
with,
likes, for your likes, God made colors, and for gardens, He made flowers, right? And then my cousin was like, "Yeah, but the colors, but the colors you like, I don't know." It sounds better in Spanish.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I grew up in Texas, so like, Hispanic racism was easy. If everybody was racist like Hispanics in Texas or Tejano, I say Tejano. Maybe I should say Tejana, but it would be a much kinder world. There's not a cooler bunch of people. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, like,
But see, but
Cool. Like they know you're
think that's-
different. They laugh. The kids are going to laugh at you for your whatever, and there's a genuine loving nature to it. Unlike you're going to get with blacks and whites or Asians. I guarantee you the races of the Mexican people and the Hispanic people are much.
yeah, not in Mexico.
See, but it's not in Cuba. That really isn't. People confuse racism with preference. All my cousin was saying was that he thinks black people are ugly. In his opinion, it was just really preference. It's not that he hated them, or
So with the exception of Cuba, where I mean, you could probably be jailed for racism and like a bunch of other offenses that are, I guess, legal in America. In Spanish countries, Spanish people are like, as racist as like white supremacists are in America. It's just like Spanish people are, because they're visitors to the U.S. I mean, this is not their native ground. I mean, they're not going to go and throw a rock at a black guy or something like that. But in Spanish countries, it gets very. I mean, like there are no civil rights like in Spanish countries, right? And black people know. Black people hate being black in Spanish countries. There's no black pride. Like people in Spanish countries who are black will lie to you and tell you they're Indian, right? It's just and Indians are also on the scale in Spanish countries is first white, like European white, probably blue, like blonde hair, blue eyes. Then it's like conquistador blood, right? Like whatever, someone who came straight from Spain. Then it's a mixture between an Indian and a Spanish person. Then it's an Indian person. Then it's a black person. And it's just like it's very horrible, and it's hard. Here like you see black folks in like a Bugatti or they know people. Yeah, it's rough to be black in Spanish countries. Or in any third world country. To look
You
different.
mentioned throwing rocks, or giving smack. I want to bring this back maybe to the theme before we go off the live portion. An article, and I don't know. Maybe my patriotism has caught up with me, and I've changed my views. I've changed the way I look at the world. But it was an Orthodox. It was was it the Israel Times? I don't remember what it was. Orthodox Jews throwing rocks at an Israeli soldier. And there's a big movement. We're not going to be drafted. We're the ones who won't. But yet the only thing they want to do is sit and read Torah and expect it to live off the government and do it. That really upset me. And I think maybe 10, 15 years ago, I might have thought, good for them, standing up to the man. But in retrospect, as a soldier, you know what I'm saying? That's just not,
Yeah, I don't think they're throwing rocks at like soldiers on duty trying to protect them. It's the ones that come to, not soldiers but policemen, just because sometimes they use soldiers to police the ultra-Orthodox who are protesting, but it's not soldiers in the front line, that type of soldier. It's just almost like a National Guard type soldier who's in their way or in their face, trying to like break up the protest. It's not that they're like going against the military and at the same time saying that they don't want to serve in the military. I mean, it's equivalent to the police, someone throwing a rock at a policeman, it's just probably poised like that. It's like probably a secular newspaper for like Haaretz or something, yeah.
To an outsider, it looks different, I think, than the reality inside. I mean, for someone like me, it would be, you should be blessed to live there. I know it's not perfect. You've got socialist roots in your, but I would think you would. I don't know. Back in the day, it would be more, well, if your head was buried in Torah, you wouldn't have to worry about dodging missiles because they'd fly right over you. That was my naive thinking. Nowadays, it's different. It's
that you have way too much respect, like for like rabbis. Now, I mean, clearly, like someone's earned the respect, but it feels like you've been like trained. You know what I mean? To like think that anyone who's Jewish is like by definition special, and oh, you know, like blessed be he and God bless this. Get the heck of these. What have these people done for anyone who's not Jewish, i.e., 99.99% of the world? Nothing. Okay, like don't feel like you don't owe these people anything. Okay, I mean, don't be like, oh, God bless his heart. God, these people don't give a crap about you. You know, and I'm against when people say that in a stupid manner, right? If like black folks say that about white Americans, because that's not true. But in this case, it's true, and they'll tell you. They're like, we're not here for you. We're not teaching Torah for you. Like, you're eating the scraps that have fallen from our table. They'll tell you straight out. And then, you know, the average Noid will just keep, you're like, thank you, Massa, and keep on dancing. You know what I mean? No, I'm just telling you, it's like, just cut it out. Like, you don't have that. You don't owe them this. You know what I mean? You know, they've hindered your growth, and it's time to say, okay,
yeah,
you
but
can pay tribute.
but as hindered as they are, I can accept it because I know where it's coming from. Like I said, I got a half-assed attempt at the Noahide bit with the divine code. That was a perfect.
Call yourself a Jew. Why can't you call yourself a Jew? Okay, I mean, even if you became some sort of quasi-Karaite Jew, right? If you accept Torah, like the Hebrews themselves accepted Torah Mount Sinai, which is basically saying, yeah, I'll keep these laws. Yeah, I believe in you, God. Like, why should you still be like called a Gentile? Like, I don't understand that.
I won't call myself a Gentile.
Call yourself a Jew. I believe in the God of Israel. Say, I'm in the Torah covenant. I identify with all these commandments and with these people in the wilderness. This is why I identify with. You don't identify yourself with a resident alien. I mean,
true.
Like, they don't appear enough.
But if I were to be spied upon to see if my claims were correct, I would come off Goyish. If they saw me driving with my wife on Saturday, my Christian wife, who is giving up her family. She's not a religious woman, but she's not going to give up. She's not going to stop doing the whole Christmas decoration thing. And I'm not going to divorce her for it.
Right.
I would come off Goyish. So that would be the one thing that would prevent me.
Okay.
Because when I came into this, I thought I was Jewish, dude.
All right. So the vast majority of Jews who they consider Jewish drive on Shabbat. I mean, they don't even believe in God. They consider them Jewish. Okay. So well, you're in a special position that, like, you know what, like, you have like a family to take care of. Okay, fine. Keep what you can. I mean, only because you drive on Shabbat. You know, some even say that driving is not breaking the Sabbath because it's not like, you know, because you're doing it with what's called a shinui, like in a different way, right? I mean, you're not lighting a fire, you're driving a car, whatever. You know, only because you can't keep every commandment perfectly, what doesn't mean that you shouldn't identify as a Torah keeper, you know, full Torah keeper. Okay, fine. We all, trust me, everyone who walks around in America like carrying in an Eruv is living in a dream world, because there's no such thing as an Eruv in America. And this is one thing I give the Chabad credit for, because no Chabadnik in America carries an Eruv because they know that it's all fake, right? But they invented a fake Eruv to make people feel that with that a little string on a post is an Eruv. Okay, but the difference between you and them is that you're acknowledging that you're a hypocrite, let's say, but that you're not denying that laws actually exist. These guys redefine the laws just so they could seem holier than thou. Okay, it's not all or nothing. You know, only because you can't keep a system perfectly doesn't mean you can't identify with that system. Say, I'm a Torah keeper. I am, I am this is an inheritance to me. This belongs to me because God gave this to whoever accepted it. And God, I accept it now. And thank God there's no Sanhedrin who can adjudicate me for doing things that I do wrong on the Sabbath. But you know what? When there is another Sanhedrin, and then for some reason they start giving everyone free tickets to Israel and free mansions to Israel for whoever wants it, I'll be on that list because that's who I am. I am philosophical Israel, right? And that's all there is. It's all philosophical. Right? The vast majority of Jews are secular. I mean, how the heck could they be Israel? But Chabad calls them Israel, and I'm supposed to accept them as such. They're all there. You're Israel. Forget this Ger crap. Forget this. You're a Jew who happens to drive on Shabbat. But you know what? Driving on Shabbat is not that doesn't make you immoral. It doesn't make you unethical.
I'll tell you this. I do take it as a compliment when my cousins and my half brothers and my family call me the Jew of the family. I don't stop it, but
you're a dirty Jew.
It's a compliment to hear that. The dirty Jew. I do take it as a bit of a compliment. It's like if only y'all knew, but thank you. And then they look at me, funny, but yeah, I've taken that, and it's not the first time.
Here, look,
he's Jewish, and I'm like,
if I go down to Oklahoma, like with 2 other Jews, and I would convert you, to Judaism, like, would you feel more Jewish then?
No.
Why?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's because I have another half who's stubborn and female. That's a big part of it.
All right, you're married to a Gentile. Does it matter? You're still a Jew. A Jew is it's what you decide to be. That's it. I mean, that's how it makes no sense that back then there were a bunch of people who believed the words of the Torah was true, but in some way that were still considered of the nations of the world. This doesn't make any sense. I mean, they have no nation, religiously, but Israel.
But that's all we have, and I've said that repeatedly. You guys are all we have. Don't you get it? And that's one of the reasons why I left Judaism this last time. I thought I left it. It was because we already are. What do you expect of us? What do you want of us? This is horse hockey. But we age and we grow.
Yeah, no, that's it, man. I mean, you know what? Frank Sinatra. You got to do it your way, But I mean, your way is a Torah way. I mean, they don't let anyone tell you where you are. Say, I'm in the Torah covenant. This, when I read the commandments in the Torah, it's talking to me, right?
It is.
That's it. And don't feel like you owe. Here, look. I believe in tribute, right? Okay. Well, they led you out of Christianity. Okay, fine. Props, tribute, whatever you want to call it to them. But that's it. This whole thing, like, oh, blessed be, oh, he's a Jew. Oh, rabbi this, rabbi that. Get the heck out.
I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be positive. We're
live.
live.
But be nice to people who are nice to you. Not to be, to people who treat you like a docile Gentile. Like, oh, make a donation here. If that rabbi is not freaking kicking and screaming to try to drag you to where he's at, then he's not worth your time. If he's not saying, like, you know what, I was just like you, in terms of knowledge a few years ago, read this, do this, so that you and I could be the same. We could be on the same level. But these guys are always talking down to you. It's like, oh, this is for me, and that's for you.
That, I would never convert to Judaism. They never convert me to Judaism. They told me the other day that because what the reason was, I don't take Judaism serious. This is
you chopped half your dick off.
Person that puts a little foil on their hot and cold force in the animals.
You're Jethro.
I don't take Judaism serious.
You were accepted. You were like Jethro. Jethro circumcised himself. You are the you did it. You're already in. And the Midrash says that bothers me. You went off and circumcised yourself. God, excuse my French. Darn it. What is seriously? You're not serious. You're not. Are you? I wouldn't do it. You ain't touched it.
I either take Judaism way too serious, or something's mentally wrong with me. I mean, the second option isn't far off, but there probably is something wrong with
No,
me.
it's Chabad, man. It's not you. It's you have to find different rabbis. You know, just it's Chabad is the problem. You know, and you looking like a Lubavitcher doesn't help because if you go to a young Israel, I mean, they're gonna think there's something wrong with you. You know, I'm just telling you. I mean, like you've joined a group that if you don't think and look like they do, they won't convert you, right? You know, I think that perhaps like you should consider a conservative conversion for now, right? You know, and see, you know, I mean, you'll have people who will finally accept you. I'm sure that you'll know a lot more Torah than they do, right?
I
But
do have the number to Rabbi Howard Jackner. He's a conservative rabbi here in New York.
yeah,
Dude,
they're not just going to convert you like that. I mean, you're going to have to become part of their community and go to their classes.
Oof. So that's a hard thing for me. Like I like the community I am in. I like.
Well, that's a problem.
I
Yeah,
mean,
because
other
they don't
than
like you.
the rabbi. Huh?
I
Sorry,
mean, the
I didn't hear
rabbis
you.
don't like you. I mean, the rabbis clearly don't view you as an equal like, or a potential like, or a person worthy to be Jewish. Right? I mean, this is like don't sympathize with people who trust me. If people in your community cared about you, well, they would have told the rabbi a long time ago. You know what? We're gonna stop going to this freaking synagogue if you don't convert this guy. We see him here day in day out, more devout, you know, than the average Jew here. They don't. These guys don't. Come on, man. We have to call things how they are. We can't. You
Well,
know.
there's people in the synagogue that says I'm the most devoted Jew in the whole temple. You know, they'll say
Did they
that.
tell the rabbi this? I mean, do they like
Sure,
post
they
something?
say it right in front of the rabbi. They'll say it in front of the rabbi. They
All
call me
right,
Grand Rabbi. They call me Grand Rabbi.
all right. So go to a different synagogue.
can you
know?
find work for him in Miami?
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Work?
I work in a synagogue. I could probably get you a job in the synagogue I work in. I mean, I don't know what you do. Like, what's your skill? I mean,
There you go. I mean,
It's my skill.
that's my thing. Isn't one of the big
My,
mitzvot of life?
my skill is a nudnik. That's why I'm in Chabad. A nudnik, for those who don't speak Yiddish, nudnik means a pain in the ass.
I'm gonna give you bells and a gesture hat. No, I'm kidding. No, seriously. What is it? Work for a living. I'm always like, do you have work? If you've got work, you can do anything.
I mean, on my floors. I mean, I'll scrub toilets. I mean,
yeah, no, but like, no synagogue is going to take you on for conversion if you walk around dressed like a Lubavitcher, like with a beard. It's just not. They're not going to do it. You
Keep
know.
the beard. Don't shave the beard.
And Chabad won't do it either. Like, if you go to a new Chabad, the first thing is they're going to ask, you're dressed like this, like what happened to you like in the last Chabad? And they're going to call that rabbi up and it's going to go on and on, but like a chain, right? You know, so if I were you, I'd go there with the clean shave, you know, or whatever, or goatee, like, look, or like, don't look like you're religious. Like,
why not? Is it just Chabadniks that dress religious? Don't we have, I mean.
No, well, when someone's converting, well, they typically don't look like they know a lot, right? It, like if someone dresses like he's a Chabadnik and knows a lot of Torah and is still coming to convert, like people ask, what's wrong with you that someone else hasn't converted you? You know, so they're going to want to talk to you know, to like your previous rabbi, and it's going to go on and on, you know, with I'm just like a chain when you go to a different place. But if you go to a modern Orthodox place and don't wear black, you know, black and white, don't wear a black hat, okay, like wear a regular kippah, trim your beard a little bit. Right, you know, because Chabad doesn't believe in trimming beards.
I know a lot. I know the fast days. I know how to practice Judaism. I know how to keep Shabbos. I know how to pray. I know how to daven. You know what I mean? I don't. It's like going backwards. You basically.
It's Chabad.
In diaspora, I would think the Jewier the Jew, the better. The more Guten and locks you can find, the better. The Jewier the more out who can stand out.
Conversion has nothing to do with knowing Judaism. It's not what you know, it's who you know, right? They have to get to know you and like you as a person. And it seems superficial, but that's what it is, right? And they see a guy who doesn't even trim his beard, which is basically only a Chabad thing. They're going to tell you, go to Chabad. And when you go there, they're going to give you the running. Like, they don't, you're unlucky with them. I mean, go to like a modern Orthodox place. You know, look modern Orthodox. Don't wear black and white and black hats every day. That's kind of weird. You know, it's just, I mean, if you were Chabad, but living in Crown Heights is one thing, okay? You know, but you know, like the Chabad, they don't accept you. They don't, and I think that they see something wrong with you, right? Especially now. You know, I guess we should go off there to really know what happened in terms of why you're in America. But like all this stuff is going to be used against you. I think that you should start a new religious identity, right? That with you know, I mean, even change your name, call yourself, I don't know, you know, Jonathan or something. I mean, well, the goal is to get you converted, right? Right? It's like George Costanza, right? I was just watching a clip of Seinfeld. It's like if everything you've done till now has been wrong, then doing the opposite must be right. You know, so do the opposite, right? Because the goal is to try to get you converted.
All right. It's like a makeover. It's like a Queer Eye for the straight guy. It's like
That's it. You
it's
know,
like design for the goy guy or something. I don't know.
right? No, in this case, is you know, straight eye for the queer guy.
Right. Yeah. I'm a little messed up. You're right. It's kind of funny you put it that way, but it's kind of they're gonna think like, what's wrong with him? He went to
That's
Chabad.
it. Break here. Look, it made no sense to me whether you're in Portugal on a bus on Shabbat, you know, with a black hat and a black coat and a long beard. You know, I don't know. That doesn't make any sense.
I was
You know,
I rode the bus on Shabbos in Portugal. I kept it as best as I could.
all right, okay.
I wasn't on the bus or anything. I wanted to go to shul on Saturday, but the damn shul was 4 metros away. That's like 6 miles. You know.
Yeah, but they accepted you there now.
The Jews that I met there, the very few of them, they liked me. Yeah, sure.
No, but the shul. Like, did they let you inside the shul?
Oh, I couldn't get in. I was banging on the front
Yeah,
door.
you see, I told you. Yeah, it's all been, like most people don't know this crap. It's like with the Noahites who kiss the rabbi's butt, the like of Chabad. Oh, Chabad, this and that. They don't know. Outside of America, you can't walk into synagogues, and Chabad won't let you in their synagogue. And they do the same thing in America if they had the chance. But here, where they would lose their you know, like their 501c3 status, like their like their like non-tax paying status if they did that, right? These guys don't give. That's exactly what they would do here. They don't give a crap about you. They don't give a crap. I mean, find one that's in the middle. Forget about this, and then in the future, you could roll into the Chabad. Oh, who's that? Oh, that's Rabbi John. You don't know who Rabbi John is? You know. I mean, you're like Pretty Woman going back into the store saying, "Big mistake," you know, big mistake, right? You know, but that's it. I mean, like you've exhausted your time with Chabad. It's already. I mean, that's like, don't go back begging these friggin' people, dressing like they, you know, like we dress like the people we like. You know, like these people like the Rebbe, they dress like the Rebbe. You're dressing like these people. These guys don't give a crap about you. You know, throw a baseball cap on, and you know, friggin' braid up your beard. Become, you know, like be like a thug. You know, like a Torah knowing thug.
The Hebrew hammer.
That's it, a thug for Hashem.
I'll
On
give
that
it consideration. Sure.
No, just that's it. It's time for something new. How old are you, John?
31.
All right, this is a good time to start something new. Get a new job. I mean, how long have you been back for?
Just for a week. A little over a week.
That's it. You know.
I came back from Pesach.
Yeah, right.
I'm planning on going back.
Really? Come
Yeah.
on. I mean, Passover. Who do you have in Passover here? You know, I mean, your family's over there in Portugal.
You know what? I had a really great Pesach here. I went to the Sephardic restaurant. Man, they put on some show for Passover. It was the best experience I ever had.
nice.
So what you have to do, and I'm surprised you haven't done it already. I mean, like, you wasted 1 month. Is you apply for a K1 visa while you're in Portugal, right? And then by the 6th month, they will approve it, and then she'll be able to travel with you to America.
I can't convince her to come to the States. She doesn't want to come to the States.
What type of crap is that? I mean, does she have kids there or something?
Does she have kids in the States? No.
No. Like important. I mean, who doesn't want to come to America?
It's a long story.
That's
I
nuts.
don't want
That's
to
nutty.
say on the air, but
I say come out west a lot, but the living, the expense of living a decent life is much lower out here. People are much more laid back. There is a Kabbat house. There's also a Reform house up the road, which is huge.
Yeah, Portugal is expensive as hell to live. Europe is expensive as hell to live, wherever you live, right? The VAT, all this crazy taxes. There's no place like America. And I've traveled all over Europe. There's no place like America. My wife,
I saw you.
My wife's German. She loves it here. It's like everything's so. What, has she been to America before?
as far as I know, no.
Yeah, trust me.
I mean, I tried to convince her.
She won't want to leave.
I tried to convince her, that we have the best of everything here.
Maybe try to convince her. I mean, like, you're the man. You gotta lay down the law, Papa. You're like, this is what we're gonna do. Like, what are you gonna be? I'm gonna be where I'm at.
That's what I thought I was doing. Yeah, sure.
Oh, wait a minute. She's older than you, isn't she?
I know. Gene Simmons said it best, man. I know everyone gives Gene Simmons hell, but he's like, this is the promised land. I'm a proud Israeli. Always will be, but this is the promised land. And he's right. Israel's still getting its shit together. Good. God bless them. I hope they get their shit together, because that means a better world for the rest of us.
Wait. John, wait a minute. All right.
But this is the promised land.
So, like, you're not like the master of your domain. Like, you're not like, wait. She's older than you then, right? I mean, if she's bossing you around.
She's only slightly older than me.
Yeah, but she can't be bossing you around. Here, regardless, she's telling you to move to Portugal, and you're telling her to move to America. I mean,
Portugal was a reasonable idea because it was a neutral location for both of us.
Neutral. It's not neutral for you.
I didn't need visas. I didn't need documents. I didn't need anything. I could just go. So it was like a really great. It was kind of cool in a way.
Yeah, but she might not be able to stay in Portugal, right?
She got.
You don't want to live in South America. Get the heck out of here, man.
I'll sponsor you. I don't know what it'll take, but
lay down the law. Say, this is what we're gonna do. She's got. I mean, an American. You know what I mean? Like, you have the most valuable piece of paper in the world, and that's an American passport. You could change her life by bringing her to America.
I told her.
They are so happy in this country. They would love to get her kids away from.
Wait. So if you tell her this is what we're gonna do, like, what's she gonna say? No. Hey, what's going on, man? I mean, you're Italian, right?
The best future we're ever gonna have is here. I mean, I told her how much money I can make in a week here, and I was telling her how much money I'm saving up, and
yeah, but she's running the show here. I mean, you gotta step in and say, "This is what we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna." You gotta slap her in the butt and say, "Let's go."
I think I can chew her down. I think I can get her.
Oh, man!
I just have to give her some time.
No, you know why? It's because you're liberal. That's the thing. I mean, you believe in, like, women voting and all this stuff. Like, you're like a softie.
Sure.
Okay. That's fine. No, like, I'm like a cowboy. Like, I walk around with a gun and a whip.
Am I even in the room?
What happened, Rosalie?
No, but you're an American, Rosalie. So I mean, like, you agree with this, right? I mean, like, he should sort of like just like kind of be a man. Just take control.
Rosalie, what do you think? I should kidnap her.
It's your relationship, and it's something that you two should come together mutually on.
Yeah, but there's no coming together, because someone has to be right here. He actually has to go to Portugal, or she has to come to America. But she's not coming to America, but she's gonna make him go to Portugal. Who the heck wants to live in Portugal? There's an acronym, like, for all the poor countries in Europe. What's called PIGS, right? And it's Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Spain. Nobody wants to live in these places because it's taxes through the roof, and it's crappy to live there, right? It's not. Come to America, man.
I have to be honest with you. The living in Portugal was nice. If I had steady work, if I actually could make
like, if you had money, like, if you had money, that's the thing. There's no money to be made there. It's hard to make money. Come to America. We'll lay down the law, and I mean, like, make it as a make it or break it. Say, look, baby,
I'm playing the game of nutrition. I think once she gets down to low morale, I think she's hopping on the first plane to New York.
It's already too late then. I mean, she's already won. Saying like, oh, but I'm gonna go because I want to. It's not
It's
a.
going to rage on forever. It will never
Come
end. It's the
on,
greatest
man.
war. You're going to fight her. Women can do stuff, and they believe in goofy stuff.
Yeah, but you're not even married to her, right? And she's bossing you around like this. I mean, come on.
We're engaged.
I mean, legally married, right? But I'm just
Yeah,
saying, it's kind of like lay down the law and say, like, you know what? It's my job to be a man, and it's my job to take care of you, and I can't do that in Portugal. You can't stop me from being a man, okay? So now what you gonna say? No? Get the heck out of here, man! I'm
The
telling
woman
you.
has jurisdiction at home, but the man's journey outside of it is his own.
I don't know what's wrong with. I don't know what's wrong with the world, man.
There's something wrong with me. I can't get the woman here to America, and I can't get the rabbi to give me the gerus. I can't do nothing around here, right?
No, it's because I mean, you got to sign off, or you got to pay her private. You got to take. I'm just saying, take care of business, man. I mean, I'm telling you the advice I would tell my brother. I mean, you gotta don't let people push you around, and not even you kidding me?
All seriousness, me and the wife, we get along very well. We don't. We're not. It might sound like crazy. It might sound weird, but we get along pretty good.
Bring her
Your
home.
job's to make money.
Bring her home.
That's it. Work hard. Have her stay at home and be like a housewife, and you work hard like a good American. A European to live. Forget that crap.
She makes some great challah, or it looked really great on camera.
Yeah, she does. And she makes the Moroccan fish. Like for years, we used to get this like Moroccan fish dish at my temple at the Chabad house. And the first night I was with her in Portugal, she made dinner, and she made the exact same Moroccan like fish. And it was like, oh my God, just amazing.
Hey, my wife won me through my stomach. It was enchiladas, though. She wasn't afraid of fire. And when a Kansas girl who wasn't afraid of Texas fire, a fire that I can handle, and I know fire.
Here, Will, step in here. I mean, come on. I mean, you're Cuban. You gotta tell this guy what's up, man. Like the older guys in the room.
I'm not trying to offend anybody, but pull up your skirt and grab your balls.
That's what I'm talking about. Each one teach one, right? Like the older guys in the room have to mentor like the younger guys. Okay.
You do realize that I'm dealing with a fiery Brazilian here.
Yeah, no, I get it. But she's telling you what to do.
Come on. That's what I'm talking about, man.
She's telling me what to do in one issue. She's telling me she doesn't want to live in America. Okay, one issue.
That's the country, man. The country.
That's a big issue.
That's huge.
That's everything. Come on, man. That's crazy. I mean, what else are you going to tell you?
I'm lobbying her now on Facebook. I'm going to lobby her.
No, you got to lobby him.
No. He's easy. He's easy. Don't with Johanna. I got to get with the woman. I got to answer with the woman.
There's nothing wrong with her. It's John. It's like you square John away, and then are you kidding me? I mean, it's America, man.
I can't square nothing away. I got lucky with what I got. I have no advice.
Man, you guys are a bunch of softies. Come on, man.
I mean,
it's just.
You give me 3 months, Will and Asher and everyone.
I get it. You like the goods, man. You're following the goods, but you let those goods run you, man.
What are you saying? I'm PW?
Yeah, you're whooped.
Man. You got you whooped.
That's okay. That's not so bad. That's not so bad, John. Go ahead, Rosalie. Let's let the lady talk.
I said, duh. I told him that a long time ago.
All right, man. This is not good. This is why things are moving forward. Because you ultimately don't know what you want. One sign of masculinity is knowing where you want to go. And once the girl knows, like, hey, you know what? Like my man has direction, she's automatically gonna want to follow. It's just because she feels like I'm not gonna listen to you because you don't know.
John, kind of pay attention pay attention to what's going on. When you guys walk, if she's walking in front of you, that's a problem.
Not really.
She walks in front of me. We work together equals.
Well, okay, but if
Liberal.
she's walking in front of you, that's a problem. You normally, if you see couples, pay attention. Like, look at body language. If you see the man's walking in front, the woman's following behind, he's leading. If she's in front, then
Bullshit. He likes to watch her ass as she walks.
That was about to say. I don't know. There are advantages to I don't know, man. Out in the world, you have to do what you have to do. A man has to do what he has to do. He has a calling. He has something he has to do. And the woman cannot interfere in that. But when he comes home, she owns the house. And that's that's worked for me because I have a very headstrong Irish German Catholic wife. Recovering Catholic, I should say. Good for her. God bless her. Sometimes just hold the purse and it will save you years of war. Just hold her purse one time. I don't know, when you get a crazy woman, but yeah, a man, and that's the Buddhist in me coming out, is a man has his way. And it's not something that Eve or Lilith or whatever, or any woman can get. She can't get in the way of that. She can only foster it or go away. A man has his Tao, his path, and she's either got to go along with that or not. Honestly, if we can maybe show her some love, she might come. I think if his family reached out to her, it's like, come over here and just.
to be fair, does she speak English?
Seems to. A
Or
little.
really. I mean,
Because maybe she's just afraid of being outside of her culture or a culture similar to hers.
We got all that here, though, especially in New York. My goodness.
I tried to convince her that New York.
All right, guys. I gotta go. But
You're the man, man.
Yeah, man. But man up. Let's do it. But just don't worry about it. It's at least you got somebody. There's a lot of people single out there. But from guys.
If I like what you've been saying this past night, where can I find more of you? Where would I go?
Well, I don't speak to stuff on my religious stuff. But I should have like a counseling for men. I'm John Wayne. I am John Wayne.
He loves
John Wayne in all his movies. Like, he beats a woman in every movie. McClintock, whatever. He always takes a woman.
I love McClintock.
And you know what? That's what they want. Okay, they want you to be a man. This whole it's TV, American television, and American education has screwed up the family because it introduces notion of 50-50. There's no such thing as 50-50. There's no such thing. Okay, one person has to lead. Okay? I'm not saying whether you treat the other person like garbage, but there's one leader. Okay, if she trusts you, she will trust your decisions.
Yeah.
You can't be a man in Europe. You can't even speak the language over there, okay? You have to be where you make the most money. That's your job. Your job is to make money. Her job is to spend it. That's it. That's all. I'm just telling you, this is the way it is. My wife wakes up when she wants. She goes to bed when she wants. She has a credit card. She has her own car, all purchased by me. She does what the heck she wants, but I work and I provide that for her. But of course, the big decisions are made by me. It's a compromise, So in that way, it could be 50-50, that she does what she's supposed to do and I do what I'm supposed to do. But in terms of where am I going to raise my family, I'm going to, what the heck? Let me be a man.
Save yourself the time. Yeah, just, you have to know, it's, women are smarter and adaptable than we give them credit. And I think they are. If I because I was very convicted when I came into my marriage. When I met my woman, it was obviously we were meant to be together. It was blatant. From then on, we had to work stuff out. She knew that I was mad passionate, like swinging an axe, ready to, bloodthirsty. I dare you to knock me down. Attitude. And it was kind of off-putting. However, you have to be, when it says be a man, you have to be your own Buddha. You have to be your own. You have to live the life. If you don't, you're just gonna make it harder on yourself. You have to. That's why I recommend Israel. You can't go to Israel till you convert. Get her over here, convert the shit out of each other, and start making babies in Israel. That's the eye of the Jew that I would see, either building Israel in New Jersey, or just going home. That's your focus as a man. Whatever world you have to build to get to that, to bring peace on earth, to bring Israel here, that's your job. If you have to work at a pizza factory and drive pizzas, deliver pizzas, doesn't matter. As long as you're doing that, she'll follow. I think. I don't know, but yeah, man. Of course you're going to accommodate her. She's your wife or she's your mate. But
all right, I really appreciate everything. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you.
All right, man. All right. Good luck.
Let's get out of the live portion. We're going to get out of here. What do you say? Huh?
No, I say
Shabbat shalom.
Huh?
Shalom.
I say keep it going. What are we wrapping it up for?
Oh,
Oh no,
because I don't want to make it a John hangout. Let's all give John a bunch of advice in front of the world. I didn't want to.
All right.
Yeah, we were going in on you a little bit, so we can change.
It's okay.
I get women, the American woman, the Texan woman. You know, she's going to do what she's going to do, and there ain't a damn thing you can do to stop her. The best thing you can do is just be a good man. That's the only thing that's going to keep her around. So do what you have to do to be a good man. And
I really have no connection here in New York, and I don't really like it here in New York personally. I think it's,
What was the difference? Okay. Now you're visiting for Passover. What's the difference between where you've been spending your days and the past week? Now that you've been outside of Long Island, New York, what's the big difference you see as far as communal living or how people on the street? Tell me the difference. I want to know now. If I may make so bold, let's make it all about John. What's the big difference? I got to know.
Portugal. I mean, it's laid back. People are easygoing. They're
Nice.
They're nice. They're open. They'll accommodate you. You need something. You need to look for something. Like, I can't tell you how many times I gone to the store and I need help, and people are friendly and they want to talk to you. And they want to deal with you. Oh, sure, and oh yeah, it's over here. Oh, okay, yeah, I'll help you with. New York, it's never stop. It's never ending. The day continues. Like, I can't tell you. We were able to do everything together. Me and the wife, we were able to do the laundry together. We were able to do shopping together. We were able to travel together. We were able to, live. We're able to live. That would be the big difference. We were able to live. New York here, you got to work. The rent's high, the bills are high, the food's $200 a week, rent's $2,000 a month. It's high living. That would be the only difference, really. It's just you're
people were
you have more time. You have more time. Yeah.
People weren't stressed, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, things weren't. I guess things were. I didn't notice the taxes. Like, I was personally blown away about things were cheap. The food was expensive, but items were cheap. Like, you can get toothpaste for €1. Like a big thing of, Crest toothpaste was like $1. And here in the States, a big thing of toothpaste is like $5, $6, $7, right? There,
Right.
€1. You get a big toothpaste for €1. So I mean, things were reasonably priced. I don't know. Like I said, I think I can convince Diana to come to the States. She just has to realize that there's not a real big. It's not a real big future, in Portugal. You're not going to get the same education. You're not going to get the same medical. You're not going to get the same, standards.
And that her culture is here. There are plenty of Brazilian Americans.
Yeah, Brazilian, Latino, it's all the same shit.
Yeah, I mean, out west is a bit different, but I would encourage her. I don't know how to approach another man's wife on Facebook. I haven't thought about that. But when my friends' wives friend me, not just you, but other Jews, Garam even, who and I take it. I'll take it. Of course, I want to take the friend request, of course. But how I respond to their comments, I really have to stop and think for a second. Just because there is a division, there is a respected line that a man should cross with a woman who's not his wife. I don't care if she's wearing pants or not. There's a line you draw with a woman who's not your wife. But as a family member, that'd be different. I mean, I don't know what to say. We don't have much. I got a bed. I have a double bed you can use anytime you want, as long as my son's not using it. In Oklahoma, I'm walking distance from the Kabbat house, reasonably walking distance, I guess. You're always welcome here. Anything I can do.
Appreciate it. If I'm ever out west, I'll stop by. That's for sure. But yeah, no, I don't. I don't think she leads the relationship. I think Ashley was going a little crazy. I mean, I don't care where we live. I mean, wherever we live, that's home. That's where family is. And I want to have a family with her, and I want to spend the rest of my life with her, God willing.
One of the mitzvot of men is to work. That was in Dr. Mitzrahi's lecture I put up on Facebook group.
And I was trying everything I can to do work in Portugal. I mean,
You do work.
Day labor work for a while.
You're not afraid of it, and that's the thing, man. If you can work, if you can find work and provide, that's a lot of your duties, and that's hard enough. But if you can find work, if you got work, if you can work anywhere, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't care. I mean, if we move to Siberia, I wouldn't mind.
If she can convert and you can convert, you can move to Israel.
Well, she's Jewish already. She's already a Yid. Her mother's family, a mother and a mother's mother and a mother's mother's mother, are Jewish. They're very secular. They're secular, and they don't practice it. They don't practice Judaism, but they have a line of for when they first came and settled in Brazil. That's another thing, another chutzpah. The rabbi was so concerned. John, how's Diana? Oh, she's Jewish, he cares. He says that that's the first question he asked me. How is Diana? Is she Jewish? What would it matter? Yeah.
But she was. How did he react when you told him?
He told that the month that I left in December, the rabbi told me that he was my biggest advocate, that he was on my side this whole time, that he was my biggest advocate, that he loves me, that he cares for me, and that if it was him, he would have converted me the day he met me. That's what he said to me. This is what he said to me. This is December, towards the end, December 20th. If it was up to me, John, I would have converted you. We need to get you converted. I care about you. I'm your advocate. I support you. I dig you. I love you. He was saying all those things. Obviously, in reality, in practicality, is he my biggest advocate? I don't know.
Convert me so I can go to Israel with my wife. Me and Rabbi Cass can drink beer and smoke cigarettes and watch the sun go down together.
I think Asher gets a little hate. He gets a little ramped up about Chabad. I don't think Chabad is as bad towards
No, it's
non-Jews.
not. No, it's not. By any means.
Though
Chabad's been the biggest outreach advocate to non-Jews, and to this day, there's no more accessible place to go to learn about all things Jewish than Chabad.org. End of story. They're responsible in many, many, many ways for bringing me to Torah.
the problem is that Chabad wants nowadays not the Lubavitcher Rebbe, but Chabad themselves, the leaders and the rabbis, they want to have it both ways. They want to believe that they believe that the Rebbe was like the last of. So if you don't know Hasidus, if you don't know Kabbalah, it might not make sense to you. But there's hidden sparks within the world, and you have to. The Jewish people's mission is to gather these sparks of holiness, and so Chabad believes that because the Rebbe once made a speech during a Farbrengen that all the sparks were collected, so all the sparks of holiness are collected. The Jewish people finished their mission in the world. So if that's the case, if the mission's finished, that means there's no more left to convert. It means there's no more Jews trapped in Gentile bodies, if you want to use that phrase. So that's where they have it both ways. So it's like they want to believe that they're they want to believe. On one hand, Chabad wants to believe that the Messiah is going to be here tonight. Baruch Hashem, God willing, the Messiah will be here tonight. But they also then have it the other way, where you gotta, you still have to do your mission in the world. You still gotta, the Messiah isn't here. So which, you know what I mean? It's like this dilemma.
Yeah. Yeah, but the thing is that the sparks might have been collected for that past generation, but what about the next generation? They're still there.
Right. Well, that would be the Chabad answer. Would be the Rebbe's the Rebbe was the last. That this is the last generation. That would be, there would be no the continuum is over, I guess.
Well, people are still having babies and they're still growing up. So
right. It's a dilemma. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a human dilemma. That's definitely the Ger dilemma. It really is. That's 1 foot in Israel, 1 foot in Goyimville. And it really is. It's I am an Israel leaning. Rabbi Asher's like, just call yourself Jewish. I could. I certainly lean more Jewish than most. I think I'm far more Zionist. And when I say Zionist, yes, I believe that the children of Israel have a right to Palestine, to Jewish Palestine at best. End of story. I am a Zionist. Flat out. I am not going to deny it. You can call me whatever. You can call me a banker. You can call me a whatever. That's their home. As I believe the Miami belong in Florida. As I believe the Cherokee belong up in Appalachia.
Yep.
Not in Oklahoma. I'm a Zionist. Flat out. Proud. And I stand that under Old Glory. Under Old Glory. It's bigger. It's bigger than her. It's bigger than Old Glory. And
I wish we had Wade here tonight because I had to hang out. I think it was last night, and Wade, man, it was just me and Wade chilling. And Wade had some really good advice because I was telling Wade that I thought I was gonna. I was telling him I was gonna throw in the towel. I was gonna hang up the black Barcelona hat. I was gonna call it quits. And
what do you say?
Wade told me why Wade told me why quit when you're so far ahead. Why would you give up when you're 99% there?
No, Wade's all right once in a while.
Yeah, Wade's a good guy. He said, "Be me." Obviously, I already knew that. Everyone should be themselves. Be me.
I thought of that advice you gave me when I came with the topic for tonight.
there was a Rebbe, the rabbi once said, I forget who it was, one of the big tzaddiks of, I think he was like a Polish rabbi, and he said, if God was to ask me why wasn't I Moses, I can give an excuse. I'm not a tzaddik like Moses. Why weren't you like Avraham? I can give him an excuse why why I wouldn't be a tzaddik like Avraham or Moses or whatever. But if God was to ask, why wasn't I myself? What words could I say? What could I possibly say to God that could be an answer to that question? Why wasn't I the person that He created me to be?
There
And
you go.
that's what you got to be. You got to be yourself. God didn't make you to be. God didn't make you goyish. And this goes to everyone in the room. Waltz, Idol Smasher, Aaron, Rosalie, myself. God didn't make us goyish, and God didn't make us Jewish. God made us you-ish. God made us us-ish. God made me Johnish. God made Rosalie-ish, Aaron-ish, Idol Smasher-ish, Walskish. We have to be ourselves. I mean, that sounds kind of corny. I mean, it sounds kind of cheesy in a way, but you just gotta be you.
It's a fact.
It's a fact, right? It's like a fact that people don't want to acknowledge. People are trying to be everyone. People want to be Bob. People want to be Joey. People want to be Tony. But let Tony be Tony.
How about not forgetting your divinity? How about not forgetting the divinity in your neighbor?
Yeah.
There's the way. I believe in the Tao. It's very, very, very Torah-esque, if you will, for a guy who'd never met a Jew, who spent long and hard thinking of how to explain things to the world. Lao Tzu did all right. There is one way, but every man walks it different, but it's still one way. You're either walking it or you're not. It's a dichotomy. It really is.
I think that's what's probably going to happen. I think I'm probably just going to... I'm going to take Rabbi Asher's advice about getting to a new synagogue. That's definitely something I plan on doing. And just, I'm going to settle down, find a place to live with Diana, have a family, do my own thing, and let someone else worry about the label. I don't think I'm going to pursue any sort of... For those who don't know Hebrew, Geras is conversion, the technical term. Geras.
Already are more than any of us, dude.
What?
You've made a greater sacrifice, I think, than many of us who would call themselves Ben Noach.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand, when someone tells you don't take Judaism serious, and this is coming from a person that has aluminum foil on his hot and cold water faucets.
Yeah, fuck them. What do they
Hey,
know?
when God wants it to happen, it'll happen.
Right, whatever that means,
This is His doing. It's His doing. Good and bad are His doing. So you just got to give thanks for both of them.
Yeah,
keep that in mind.
Right. I mean, everything comes from God.
That's right. Say, okay, you're seeing from you. What's next?
Right. But I think it's not in the cards. I don't think God... I think what God is telling me that I don't need an affirmation on a fakakta piece of paper that tells me what I am.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, what does it prove? I mean, what does it... Okay, it says a piece of paper says, what?
Jethro. It's the story of Jethro, dude. He was already accepted by Moses. And Jethro
yeah, he's his father-in-law.
Well, he was accepted,
He was accepted already by God, but Moses didn't accept him.
After a while, he did, though. Even Moses came down and said, come with us.
Yeah.
You have a place in Israel. You're one of us. And no, come with
he had to go get his family.
He did, and they turned sour.
But he did end up converting eventually.
Yeah, I think Jeffro was someone like me. You know, he probably spent 4 years at a Chabad house, and he just, what's the point? I'm gonna go to Midian, chill out with the wife.
He was a honeybee. I see myself in Jethro too, because he went around to all the flowers and got the best of all of them. It was cyanide that convinced him. That's me, because I mentioned the Tao Te Ching. I still carry a lot of my journey. I'm surprised how much a lot of my journey is kosher. I'm amazed at that. 44 years old still. I'm still amazed that wisdom is wisdom. It descends from one source, and it's a matter of conveying it to the world. Well, that means wisdom is everywhere.
Someone gave me this card. I don't know if you can see my video. It's not coming in too clear. Someone gave me this card. It says the Rebbe calls you,
I see it.
and it basically says we're obligated to spread the universal Noahide laws to all of mankind. And then on the back it says the 7 laws. I like this actually, because it's both in positive and in negative, because people put the Noahide laws very negatively. Here, Chabad puts it positive. Believe in God. Believe in one God. Honor God. Right. So it's in the positive form. Instead of so it's not. So it says believe in God, believe in one God, and it says reject idol worship. Right. That's the negative. And it says honor God. Don't blaspheme. It says preserve human life. Don't murder. Right. And then it says respect family relations. Don't commit adultery. Respect property. Don't steal. Respect God's creatures. I like that one.
Yeah.
And don't eat the flesh of an animal, and establish courts of justice. Have a just legal system. 7 for 70. 770. That's the name of the headquarters of Chabad.
Very
770.
positive. A lot of positivity.
So I just wanted to show that. I mean, it's so funny because the lady that gave it to me says it's actually a positive story, because I think the people that go to the goes to the shul, they're very supportive of me, and they're very warm and they're very welcoming. And she says to me that I resembled. She said to me this. She says I'm a real Jew, and that I resembled the Rebbe, and that I was a shiach of the Rebbe, meaning I'm like a I guess a Christian term would be like an apostle. Like Jesus sent the apostles out, so I would be like a shliach, would be like an apostle of the Rebbe, and she gave me like a bracha, and she said, you know what? She says, here, take this card, and then give it to someone else that might need it, and then hopefully they'll come to Judaism. So that's I see those little stories like that. It keeps me going, It like. I don't want to lose that, you know what I mean? That's why I don't go to a different community, That's why I don't want to switch.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, John. Like for me, I know that, like I still have like this goyish part, but I know that if I leave Judaism and I go to try to just live a goyish life, I'm gonna miss it. I'm not gonna be satisfied. It's gonna bother me. So
Yeah, I don't get the goyish lifestyle.
Agreed.
I'm living proof of this. I'm a third-time guy on that, and yeah, you can't. It's like after a while, heroin, hook it to my vein, just stick it in me. After a while,
give me a drip.
You can't. What? It's the best sell job ever. No, nobody's got a better job. Nobody's got a better product to sell, because once it's in you, it don't leave, man. It propagates and it'll fester, and it will bug you. And yeah, take it from somebody who's tried twice so far. You can't. It won't leave you. It won't. You just have to deal with it. Hook it to my veins.
Yeah, I don't relate. I don't do it. I don't get the worldly living, you know. If I could have done it that way, I would have done it that way, guys. Come on.
Exactly. You know, and I wish the people that like the rabbi that sees you would get that. Like, they don't get it, I think, how much you have to give up to be what, you know, what they were born in. You know, I don't think they would do it. I don't think they would go through what we have to go through to get where we want to go.
Well, don't forget though, there's a lot of political stuff. I mean, it's just like, you know, you go into a community, if you don't get along, if you're not friends with people and this and that and the other thing, then just find another community. It's no, there's Jewish people all over the place, and some Jews are great and some Jews aren't, and some great Jews aren't going to be great to you because you just don't hit it off. Don't limit yourself to one area. If it's not working, if you don't feel like you're getting into it, you don't find a rabbi that you're like in love with, then try another one. Try another community until you get into one where you know that they're encouraging you and they're ready to support you and they want you in a part of that community. And you're golden.
It's good to hear that you have a lot of love. You know, it really is. Yeah. The fact that you have, you know.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's pricks in the place. I mean, there's one guy that spits at me and calls me a Haya Bahima.
I just want to come up there.
What does that
Dude, I want to Texan his ass. Dude. Golly. See, Christians are nice about this. In their churches, when you're growing up, everyone's nice to each other. And, you know, until you go home. But at least there and at the liquor store, you know, on Saturday night, yeah, they're nice to you. You know. Good night, dude. I'm sorry. I know the story. I'm not going to get into it. I know who you're talking about. I know damn well who you're talking about. I still want to punch the bastard.
Yeah, it is what it is. But
anything on Zionism before we wrap this thing up on the live portion? I want to hear from everybody. An honest account. Wade will tell you flat out he's not Judaism, and he's not into Judaism. He's into Torah. That's his approach. What is your approach on the Holy Land, as I like to say? And I don't mean that with frills. I mean it honestly, but it might come off frillish to some. So what's your take, y'all? Aaron, on Zionism and conceptions, misconceptions. What's your take, man?
Well, then, you know, there's obviously different types of Zionism, but, you know, my idea of what it looks like is an acceptance by the Jewish people, not a secular state, and a religion. You know, it needs to be a religious state, and I would encourage, you know, Jews to try to push for that. But until it's a religious place, until Israel is run, you know, on a monarchy court system, I mean, what are you running home for? You're running home to go get shot at and bombed, and, you know, when you're young, absolutely. But Israel needs a lot of money too, so they need the Jews around the world to continue to thrive and funnel money into the state so that it can become something. But it's a good country. If I didn't live in America, it would be my next choice, just because of some of the way the politics work and the freedoms that are provided. But it's not. It's not what we need. It's not the temple. It's not Judaism. It's not Israel and Judaism. It's just it's just a secular state.
Gotcha. Walsh, William, my friend, what say you?
I think Israel is where it's supposed to be. You know, I think God really is whether it was set up secular. Really, in reality, it started off as religious first. The first people that went there were like all Orthodox, but and then later on came the communists. But it's God's will. We wouldn't be there. I'm already saying we, but they wouldn't be there if God didn't want them there. I don't
Right
know
on.
the question. But,
Agreed.
Got you, Rosalie, my lady.
Yes.
Would you please chime in?
Israel needs to get their shit together. They're hurting the world. Jews that are in exile, they need to get it together and get home and take care of it. Because the backside is definitely working harder than the front side right now. But that's a topic for discussion later.
All right. We will. Yohanan, speak to me, my friend. My brother.
I mean, I guess my answer would be somewhat on the similar to Rosalie. I'm not a big. I think Israel. I'm not a big fan. If you want to be there on an individual basis, that's fine. Like I'm not like a big advocate. I'm not like a diehard Zionist. Quite frankly, I don't know why Muslims are killing each other for the country. It goes against. I mean, it's whatever. I mean, they do whatever they do, but I mean, yeah, it's there. It's gonna stay. Israel's a nation. It's not going nowhere. And to quote Aaron, it's right where it needs to be.
All right.
So my answer was half and half. It's okay, but it's not okay at the same time.
I get it. I have an extreme view because I don't like my species. But if there's any hope, Jew, go home. Go home. We have the internet. Go the fuck home. You are wasting your time with Goyim. I don't give a shit what the Rebbe says. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Go home. Rid that land of its socialist values and make it something worth living in. Go the fuck home. We don't need you. They don't give a shit about you. I don't give a care how nice the American Christians are. Go home. That's where you're needed, and that's where the world needs you. I love you, and I wish you the best. And while you're here, I will defend you till the death. But you need to go home.
They need to Jew up first.
Get the fuck out of Goyville. Get the fuck out of Goyville.
They need to return to their status that who they are.
We don't want you here. You don't need to be here. Trust me. Take it from me. Take it from anybody who's leaving it to try and get to you. Go home because you're all we got, man.
So that's the thing about it, though. I mean, if any country in the world embodies that phrase "Goyville," it's Israel.
Thank you.
Israel is the quintessential Goyville. I mean, it is. I mean, maybe like Jerusalem, like the western corner. Okay, the western quarter is okay. Okay, Jewish. The eastern is the Christians or whatever.
They got that tourist trap coming. That third temple with the roller coaster and the Ferris wheel. Third temple, it's coming.
Right. Isn't that glorious? I mean, come on, putting a fucking roller coaster with the temple. That's something a goy would do.
I'm being sarcastic.
I know. But
Jews to go home. When I see you standing out with pants and your children and you're smart, and go home. You're not needed here. We don't need you here. No one cares, man. Go home. They need Torah in the Holy Land. Torah in the Holy Land is honey and milk for the freaking world. I believe that. I really believe that.
No, you're absolutely right.
No,
You're absolutely right.
World, you go home, you bring Torah, and get some of that Bolshevik shit out of there. Get some of that government overlord shit out of there. Bring Torah home. baby, the world will thank you. The universe, go home. And I say that because I love you and because I want a better world for what's going to survive in this world. I want a better world for my kids too. And the prospect of world peace and a house for all nations under the God that I love and I believe in, I stick with, man, there's not a better cause in the world, baby. I love you, but we've got the internet so we can read you. We can learn from you. Go home. Torah up that land, baby. Torah it up. Okay. I'm going to end the live broadcast after that. 9:50 in Oklahoma City. Yeah, it's about that time. I'm James. Find me at theidolsmasher@gmail.com. Every Thursday we do this. I'm hosting it. I'm taking it back over. Fine. It's mine. I got this. John Gitchela is back on YouTube. You can't keep a good Jew down. Go to John Gitchela for some great Torah nuggets every day or almost every day or enough times. You get plenty to go through. Aaron, Rosalie, Will, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Yochanan, my brother from another mother. We're going to sign off the live broadcast.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat
Happy
shalom.
Yom Tov.
Happy Yom Tov.